Hello, everyone. Welcome. Alright, so we're gonna be finishing off reacting to all of my previous theories that I made over the past few years. Hold on, give me a second. What's up, everyone? I'm just gonna sit here and wait for people to show up. And then we begin. I just want to finish reacting to these already so I can just, like, get working on my actual theories. And I know this is gonna bother me until I get it done and over with. Alright, I forget which one we were watching before. I think we were watching... Were we watching the Papyrus one? I think we were. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna be doing Papyrus, everyone. Recap everything we— Oh, and tell me, anyone in the chat, how would you, does the audio sound okay, or am I gonna need to restart again? Does the audio sound fine, everyone? Sounds good? Alright. Let us continue watching. Fuck it, I'm just gonna continue watching where we left off. Maybe I'll restart it a little bit. I think he wants to know if the prophecy is real, or if it's just bullshit, right? So that might be— Oh, also, maybe I should go in here. What was that at? Negative 4.5? Okay, I'll just raise it up like this. Let's see. Another reason why he's trying to cause the roaring. Is this louder now? Oh wow, I have a special name now. Hey Noha. Yep, you're a mod now. So, what should my rules be for streaming? Honestly, I'm like a no rules kind of gal, you know? I'm like, anything goes. I feel like the only thing that I would ban is like if I'm playing a game and someone is backseat gaming, or like if someone spoils stuff. I think that's the only thing that should be ban worthy. Everything else is a timeout at most. Anyway, now we watch. Or should I restart this entire video? Honestly, I was not paying attention when I was watching this, so we're just gonna have to restart it. Welcome. The night, the roar. No slurs, probably? Of course, duh. If someone drops the N-bomb, of course, it gets the ban hammer. Night. They're one of the most mysterious characters in this game. Everyone in town could be a suspect. Is it Chris? Is it Gaster? Is it Papyrus? Despite being one of Toby's favorite characters, he's conveniently missing from the story. Sans implies— Guys, I was literally so convinced it was Papyrus. I was so convinced. I was like low-key a little disappointed when it wasn't. When it was obvious it wasn't him. But like, I don't know. I feel like this was like a top-tier theory. I feel like I had a lot of convincing evidence. Maybe I'm just glazing myself right now. Maybe I'm just being like super egocentric, but I don't know. I just feel like I was onto something. We're gonna meet him around the time Asriel— Papyrus Night is still real? Comes home, which would be near the end of the story. And conveniently enough, the end of a story is the perfect time to have a big plot twist. To have the main villain's identity— You watch out, chapter 7 comes and it's still Papyrus. Now we were cooking. What if it is Papyrus? What if he just randomly is like wearing one of those like Viking helmets? Hold on, Viking helmets. Like, you know the Viking helmets that have like these things? What if it's like that, but it has like antlers? Antlers. What if he's wearing something like that, which is why it looks like he has like antlers, but it's just like a helmet. Like something like that. This is the kind of thing that I'm thinking of. I feel like that would be kind of dumb, like kind of like deceptive on Toby's part, like just a way to like intentionally make the story more confusing. But I mean, it's a possibility, right? I believe all of your theories, even the contradictory ones. You're the GOAT. I have to go sleepy now, so no slurs anyone, otherwise Noha returns from the grave, and you're all done. Alright, good night, Noha. revealed. So, in this video, I will present all the evidence that points to Papyrus being the knight. Then, I will explain the implications this fact will have on the story. I want to shout out Insanely ADD and Sock Muppet for their videos on the subject, because I will be stealing all of their arguments. Now, let's get right into the theory. In order for someone to be the knight, they must have the means, motive, and opportunity to do so. Just the random pop sound effects, like that's so like jarring. In order for someone to be the knight, they must have the means, motive, and opportunity to do so. Means is if the person was physically capable of committing the crime. Motive oh yeah, let me put it on. Let me make sure we're at. And then let's put it at 1.5. I think that's fine. Reason for committing the crime. An opportunity is if the person had an opportunity to commit the crime. Let's start out with means. Does Papyrus have the means to be the knight? Well, according to Queen, any lightener with enough determination can create a dark world. Papyrus is a lightener, so check. And in Undertale, Papyrus is determined to do anything he puts. There's flavor text about the knight removing their helmet, which would be difficult with the horns. You might be cooking. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. That would be kind of awkward. I still feel like it has to be like a holiday family member. But yeah, it would be kind of awkward if like it was like their antlers like poking out of the helmet. Like how logistically would that work? How would you pull it off? So it's his mind too. So assuming he has a reason to be the knight, I definitely think he could be determined enough to get the job done. So means has been satisfied. Next we have motive. I'm actually gonna hold off on talking about motive because it's gonna take a significantly longer amount of time to explain it, so I'm just gonna move on to opportunity. Did he have the opportunity to create these dark worlds? Let's start with Castletown. This dark world was created before the events of chapter 1, and since we don't know what Papyrus was doing during that time, he definitely could have created it. As for why he chose the supplies closet at school, I have a few ideas. He could have learned about it from Sans, who had spoken to Alphys beforehand. He may have also chosen it because it's secluded, but another possibility is that someone told him specifically to open a dark world in that room. More on that later. So overall, I think he could have Sock Muppet theory related to Pop Knight? I'm interested. I mean, they can shapeshift. I guess they can shapeshift. Like, there are just so many weird things about the knight. I mean, you could just argue that, like, the knight's armor is magical and doesn't make a, like, complete sense. Like, is it metal armor? Is it a skin-tight suit? Like, what are we going for here? Yeah. Easily open the Castletown Dark World. So let's move on to Card Kingdom. Since the Card Kingdom is so similar to Castletown, they were both opened in similar locations and were opened before chapter 1. The knight is very skeletal though. Like, just look at the knight. Roaring Knight. And then we have Papyrus. Papyrus, Undertale. I mean, you gotta admit, they do have very similar looks to them. Especially this, like this could easily be his ribcage, and then there's just like this incredibly skinny waist. Like, bro needs to eat a hamburger. Like, I don't know, bro be skinny. Definitely has a skeletal look. So, do you think Papyrus Knight is still possible? Maybe it is. Applying the same logic to Castletown, transitive property go burr, which means Papyrus did. It could be Noelle's second cousin once removes roommate's stepson. That is true, you're right. Have an opportunity to what if that's Papyrus? Noelle's second cousin's once removes roommate's stepson? Created. Lastly, we have the Cyber City Dark World. This is going to be more complicated to prove because the time period in which this fountain was created is heavily debated in the fandom. Some people think it was made the night before chapter 2, others think it was made right after Berdly and Noelle fell asleep in the library. I'm not going to argue which one is correct, I'm just going to consider both possibilities. This is just me, like, giving up trying to convince people that, like, the Dark World was made while Noelle and Berdly in the room, because I knew that there were just people who were just gonna stubbornly believe that, like, it happened prior to that, like, during the night between chapter 1 and chapter 2. So I was just like, fine. If I can't convince you, then I'll just consider both options. Just please give my theory a chance. If it was opened the night before, then Papyrus absolutely had the opportunity to make it. All he had to do was sneak outside his house, open it, and then sneak back home. If it was opened while Noelle and Berdly were sleeping, he also had the opportunity to open it. After all, the library was open to the public that afternoon, and all he had to do was go inside and quickly leave. Though this explanation does beg the question, how did he sneak into the library and not get noticed by Undyne? Well, it's simple. Papyrus is described as forgettable, so he could have easily blended in. I feel like I was cooking with that, because, like, isn't that such like a random... Well, it's simple. Papyrus is described... That's forgettable. That's like such a random, like, description. I feel like that's very, like, pertinent. No? That he would be described as forgettable? I wouldn't describe him as forgettable. I know this could be, like, Kara talking. I mean, I went through, like, a whole video, like, explaining why Kara is in the narrator, but regardless, I feel like this is important. I guess he's forgettable to some people. So he could blend in with a crowd, no? So that might explain why no one saw him. I always thought the knight's skeletal appearance could be a reference to Wendigo and weird supernatural deer. Oh, you're right. Wendigo, goon. No, not goon. Wendigo. I don't actually know how to spell it. Wendigo. You're right. It does look like a Wendigo. You're right. That probably was the inspiration for it, which I guess would imply that it's like a deer creature, or it's like a cryptid almost. Maybe that would support Death's Knight. Like if Death is dead, maybe I can imagine like a dead person turning to some like sort of boogeyman cryptid type deal. Yeah.
So he could have easily blended in with the crowd, especially since Undyne seems a bit preoccupied.
Watch it turn the knight's armor is like made of darkness and Goner in the shape of death.
If that's not a good enough explanation for you, recall the flavor text that implies someone hid in the closet. So it's possible that Papyrus snuck into the closet before Undyne showed up at the intersection and then just like opened the dark world when he felt the time was right.
If it's Death, it being a creepy pasta deer would be good. Yeah, like I feel like if it was Death, like the knight would have to be undead or something, like some sort of undead creature.
As for why Papyrus decided to wait to open the Dark World, I'll explain why later. Okay, so I just established that Papyrus does have the opportunity to be the knight. So now let's move on to motive. At first glance, it seems kind of hard to believe that Papyrus is the knight. In Undertale, Papyrus is a nice guy with a heart of gold, and since Deltarune characters are very similar to their Undertale counterparts, it follows that this version of Papyrus is also a nice guy. So the idea of Papyrus endangering not only the lives of children, but the entire world seems a bit out of character, if you ask me. Unless
undead or undeath? Both.
Doesn't understand what he's doing. What if someone is tricking him into doing this? He always was kind of gullible in Undertale, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think that Papyrus is in a very emotionally vulnerable state in his life that makes him very easy to manipulate.
Yeah, like I agree. I think he's super gullible. I remember when I first watched this theory, there were tons of okay, I shouldn't say tons of people. There was one person in my chat trying to argue with me and say, "Oh no, Papyrus isn't gullible. It's just that Flowey is super manipulative." Like, y'all. He's like he has like a child's mindset. I know he's like an adult, he's grown, but he's like so vulnerable and easy to manipulate because he sees the best in people. He's so naive. He thinks everyone is good at heart. It makes him so easy to manipulate. But what if Papyrus is this? Like I feel like if he was the knight, it would make perfect sense. It would be totally in character. I know he's like a nice guy, but an evil person could easily manipulate him into doing this and like trick him into thinking this was like somehow a good thing. I don't know.
Let me explain.
Like it's just like super cool. Like being the Roaring Knight is cool and it's not gonna hurt anyone and whatever.
In Undertale, Papyrus seems to be bombastic, extroverted, and outlandish, but beneath the surface lies a lot of vulnerabilities. He's lonely. His mailbox is always empty. He somehow has a negative amount of followers on the Undernet, and apart from Sans and Undyne, he doesn't seem to have that many close friends, which is why when Frisk befriends him, he's so happy. He desperately wants friends and admiration.
And in Deltarune, it's like 10 times worse because bro ain't got no job. He's just sitting inside all day in his goon cave or whatever on like 4chan and like doing his thing. You know, he would be even more lonely and desperate. No. It's both Flowey is super manipulative and yeah, exactly. Flowey is super manipulative and Papyrus is super gullible. So it's like a match made in hell. You would think that the roaring is like a good thing if Gaster tried to convince him. Yeah, I would imagine Gaster would be able to well, I guess not Gaster, since Gaster is like opposed to the knight at this point. I think, oh yeah, that's a flaw in this theory because my argument was that Gaster was the one like convincing him to be the knight, but it seems like Gaster is like opposed to the knight. So how would that work? I mean, he could have just been manipulated by a different person, but regardless. I think that the knight is the result of Carol trying to resurrect her daughter, but she can't bring her back. You would think that the roaring is my one problem with Death's Knight is that Death is definitely the one trapped in the code because of the TV line. Maybe weird undead or cryptid shenanigans solves that. Yeah, that's why I think it's not Death, because isn't she supposed to be trapped in the code? Like, aren't we supposed to find her? If she's literally the knight, then how we already found her? Like that, this whole like find her quest implies that she's like sequestered somewhere that we can't get to, like in the code or something like that. I don't feel like she would be the knight. And it's like, why would the mayor help her? Because like in most of these Carol Knight theories, the idea is that Carol is the knight to like open dark worlds to search for her daughter because her daughter is stuck in the depths or something. But if Des is the knight And it's been already established that Carol works for the Knight. What is her motive for doing that? It's not to find Des because she's working for Des. Has already been found, no? I guess she could just not know the Knight is Des, but that's confusing. Am I just talking in circles? I feel like I'm making sense here. Gaster's chilling with popcorn in the background. What if she's trapped in her own body, watching, but basically a puppet? Oh, maybe she's like in a mental prison. Like she's in this dark mental prison. She's like, hello, where am I? I can just hear scratching. And there's like a second entity that's controlling her body. So she's like body trapped. Zombie Des, like how Sanctuary Gerson wasn't actually Gerson. Well, Sanctuary Gerson was Gerson. Like, he absolutely was. I know he wasn't, like, he's like a Gerson's essence brought to life through the dark world, but he has the same personality and memories of Gerson. So you could argue he is Gerson. It could be Des' consciousness that's trapped in the code, like Gaster got fragmented in an Undertale. Ate your food, food. Yeah, mental prison, this is what I've been saying, it all makes sense. Don't tell me third entity theory was actually Des and the Knight the whole time. Well, there wouldn't be a third entity. There would be like Des's body, I guess Des's consciousness is trapped in the body, just unable to control it. And then there would be another entity controlling the Knight. But the question is, what would that second entity be and what would their motives be? Carol could be trying to undermine not Des the Knight if there's so many like, because like the phone call implies that Carol is working for the Knight, but what if she's not working for the Knight? What if she's trying to like fight against the Knight? She's just like saying, oh, the Knight is gonna open a dark world in the church, we gotta do something about it. But because the way that the phone call is like worded, she just says that church next dark world is gonna be in the church or something like that, which would imply she's working for the Knight. But what if she's not working for the Knight? What if she's working against the Knight and she's just relaying the information she's learned about the Knight to try and stop it? I don't know if I'm making sense here. Oh, hello, I'm early again. Hey, Mego. Don't tell me third. All of this just because the Knight is very unhinged and violent. Too many ethereal entities, my head hurts. Carol trying to cover up Undyne being trapped in the bunker. I don't think she's trying to cover up Undyne being trapped in the bunker. I think she like wants to kill Undyne, because in the phone call she talks about a police sacrifice, so I guess she's sacrificing people. I don't know why.
But what separates this version of Papyrus from Deltarune's Papyrus is the fact that he has a purpose, he has a goal. He wants to capture a human so that way he can join the Royal Guard and finally become popular. That's why he doesn't hide away in his room like Deltarune Papyrus does. Unfortunately, Deltarune's Papyrus doesn't have a goal or a purpose, so he doesn't really have a reason to, get out of bed and do things. That's why he's so isolated and depressed. Now imagine that you're in his shoes. You're the sad, depressed, hopeless person, and then someone comes into your life. They earn your trust and they tell you, I have an important mission for you. You're gonna be powerful and important. You're finally gonna get some respect from others, but you need to listen to me. They tell you that you are the Roaring Knights and that you're gonna save the world. They tell you how, when, and where to open dark worlds, and you listen to every single order they give you because you finally have a purpose. You're the Roaring Knight. So to address the name Roaring Knight, most people believe that the Roaring Knight wants to cause a roaring. After all, they themselves call themselves the Roaring Knight, which means that if Papyrus was a knight, doesn't
But
that mean
here's
he
the
was Roaring
thing,
Knight's
if
knight?
Papyrus is the Knight, like that doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the Knight's like demeanor or personality or at all. Like I won't say that Papyrus doesn't have aura, but his aura is completely different from the Knight. Like the way the Knight acts, he just doesn't act like Papyrus at all. Papyrus is like a silly, goofy guy. He would be like talking and making jokes and stuff. He would not stop talking. He would not be able to contain himself. The Knight literally doesn't talk at all. They just like give these smug little smiles and that's it. Like the Knight just doesn't act like Papyrus at all. It's cutting in and out. So maybe it's. Oh yeah, you're right. Papyrus would not be aura farming. Like he just doesn't have that kind of like intimidating aura to him. I don't think he would do that. I have a feeling the police sacrifice line is being misinterpreted. It seems like those are the only two words being heard out of the full conversation. Papyrus would attempt to aura farm but would fail horribly. Like maybe he would, yeah, I guess maybe he would try, but it would be like goofy. He would fail. It would be like cringe, you know what I mean? The Knight is like genuinely like, he like genuinely has aura, you know what I mean? And I don't feel like Papyrus would be able to achieve that. Like, look at this pose. The sass. The smugness. That's just not Papyrus. I feel like he would be joking and, like, talking the entire time. So maybe that would disprove the Papyrus theory? The helmet actually muffles his voice. He's making bones and darkness puns the whole time? Maybe. Papyrus, what it's... Yeah, By the way, the police sacrifice line, what do you think it actually means?
Not necessarily. Perhaps the Roaring Knight is just a title that was given to him by another person. If that is the case, he probably assumed it was some sort of cool nickname and didn't really think too deeply into it. I mean, come on.
Wait, but doesn't Papyrus literally hit that crossed arm pose when? Let's see. Papyrus cross-armed. Papyrus crossed arm. No. I don't know what pose you're talking about, but I'll believe you. Sorry, let's continue to watch.
The Roaring Knight, despite not knowing what the Roaring is either. So is it that unbelievable that Papyrus just calls himself the Roaring Knight but doesn't think too deeply about the title? I think not. Need more evidence? Well, how about the fact that Papyrus has a history of being manipulated by another person to do their bidding, specifically Flowey? Let me explain. So in Undertale, Papyrus and Flowey were friends. Sans talks about Flowey giving Papyrus advice, flattery, and predictions. During Flowey's monologue on the genocide route, he also talks about them being friends, and so does the scrapped Undertale alarm clock app. But Flowey didn't befriend Papyrus out of the goodness of his heart. It seems like he had a plan for him from the beginning. A plan that he executed near the end of the pacifist route. So after you beat Flowey in the neutral route, he comes back to us and he says that if we want to get our happy ending, we need to befriend everyone. This again isn't something he's saying out of the goodness of his heart. He's up to something. He wants us to befriend everyone so he can get everyone in the same room and steal their souls. It starts with Papyrus insisting that we befriend Undyne. We show up at her house, seemingly unannounced, and then Papyrus jumps out the window to leave us alone with Undyne. After we befriend Undyne, Papyrus convinces her to ask us to deliver a love letter to Alphys. This letter, upon delivery, coaxes Alphys out of the lab and distracts her, so Flowey can sneak in and do his thing. We know that he snuck in because he tampered.
Maybe I'm crazy? Yeah, maybe. Because I don't remember Papyrus ever, like, striking that pose. Like, that Disney Channel-ass crossed arm pose. Like, Disney Channel crossed arm. Like, that's just the type of shit he'd be on. You know what I mean? Like that. You're not gonna tell me that doesn't give you the same vibe. I'm Josh Price, and this is Disney Channel. I don't know. It's a little corny. Chris also acts like the knight, pointing, acting, pose, turning their... Okay, but Chris points with their finger and so does the knight. I mean, those are like very basic actions. Yeah, maybe I saw a piece of fan art that had Papyrus's arms crossed, so maybe that's just like leaked in. My name is Des Holiday, and this is Darkner Channel. True. I love that the Roaring Knight at the start of the fight, their sprite debunked a lot of theories, and it's a funny pun.
With the elevator and put a letter.
I can't sleep. Yes, no has back. Not that insomnia is good, but I'm glad you're back.
On Alphys' desk saying, I know what you did. Meanwhile, as Alphys is on a date with us, we are conveniently interrupted by Papyrus and Undyne. Alphys confesses her feelings, blah blah blah. She goes to train with Papyrus for a little bit, but is abruptly sent home immediately after. Then we get a phone call from Papyrus, who tells us in a very awkward manner to go see Alphys. When we get there, we see that Alphys has unlocked the door to the true lab. We go inside and get trapped due to a power
Oh, by the way, I remember watching a video that like theorized that this wasn't even Papyrus talking. This was like a Flowey impersonating Papyrus, because we know that Flowey can impersonate people's voices on the phone. And like Papyrus says howdy. He says howdy, and it's like no one says that except Flowey and like Asgore. So that is pretty sussy. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think that this is Papyrus or Flowey? I mean, it doesn't matter for this theory. Regardless, I'm just trying to make the point that like Papyrus has been like manipulated by people in the past. But like that's just an interesting point that I didn't think I needed to get into for this theory. If you're a believer of Queen Universal Mother theory, that would mean Carol doesn't really understand the Roaring and is working with the Knight under false impressions. I don't feel like the Queen Universal Mother theory is true, though. I feel like people just notice that Queen, like, seemed to mirror Noelle's relationship with her mother, which does seem to be an intentional parallel, and just, like, took it too far to me, like, she mirrors the relationships of, like, every, like, the dynamic that Chris has with Queen is the same dynamic Chris has with Toriel, and I guess the same dynamic Susie has with Queen is the same dynamic she has with her mom. I feel like there's no proof of that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like, yeah, so I don't really agree with the Universal Mother theory. I feel like it only applies to Noelle. It doesn't really apply to Chris. How can you watch how can you watch Queen interact with Chris and say that she acts anything like Toriel? I don't see it, personally. What are your thoughts on Chris being the one that attacks Susie and Rouse after defeating the Knight? Okay, so I did watch the video on it, and I don't believe in the theory, because the file for like the slash. It's called like Roaring Knight slash, something to that effect, which would imply that the Roaring Knight is the one who slashed, right? And I feel like that would make more sense, because why doesn't, if Chris slashed Susie, okay, we can say that Susie might have had her back turned to them and didn't know it was them somehow, so maybe that's why she never commented on it. But Rousey saw it happen, supposedly. Why does he never bring it up? I feel like that would be something he would bring up, no? It doesn't make any sense to me. Queen and Toriel both get drunk? I don't know. I mean, that's like a very, like, vague similarity. Yeah, Toby usually doesn't lie like that. I mean, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me, character-wise. Why would Chris even need to do that? Like, Chris knows that the knight can like, whoop ass, can kick ass, can literally one-shot all of them. Why would Chris need to do that? I mean, the theory argues, from my recollection, the theory argues that Chris does that to, like, prove their loyalty to the knight or something to that effect. And after they, like, hit Susie and Rousey, the knight knights them to show that, oh, they're, like, they accept their proof of loyalty or something. But Chris already works for the knight, clearly, so why would they need to do that? Clearly, they're already working for them. I don't know. Yeah, that's another thing. I can't imagine Chris hurting Susie. Chris likes Susie. They might even have a crush on her. That's kind of implied, though I don't know. But Chris really likes Susie. I'm sorry, I can buy Chris hitting Rousey, because it doesn't seem like Chris likes Rousey as much. But I don't think it's in character for Chris to hit Susie. It doesn't make any sense to me. If he wanted to keep it vague, he'd just call it a slash. Yeah, exactly. I do think that people view the knighting as more friendly than it is. I saw it as a get back in line threatening sort of thing, really. But yeah, if the game file says the slash is from the knight, it's probably from the knight. Yeah, so I think it's an interesting theory. I don't think it's true though.
We get a phone call from Papyrus, who tells us in a very awkward manner to go see Alphys. When we get there, we see that Alphys has unlocked the door to the true lab. We go inside and get trapped due to a power outage. What's interesting about this power outage is that it only affects the elevators. All the other electronics appear to be working just fine. As we make our way through the true lab, and as we're about to leave, we get a call from someone with Asriel's voice, who thanks us. We get into the elevator, and it takes us straight to the throne room. Flowey's roots block our exit, which forces us to go to Asgore. As we're talking to Asgore, Flowey steals a human souls. Toriel saves us from Asgore, and then it's revealed that all of our friends we made along the way are here, kumbaya. Then it's revealed that everyone was invited here by Papyrus, and that Papyrus was told to invite everyone by Flowey. And then from there, we all know what happens. He steals everyone's souls, and there's a huge boss fight, and oh my god, through the power of friendship, we defeat evil and free everyone from the barrier, you know? But like, isn't that crazy that he's able to manipulate Papyrus to such an extent? I mean, clearly Papyrus wasn't like doing this on purpose or because he's like a bad person or a malicious person, but that just goes to show how easy he is to manipulate. So is it possible that he's also being manipulated by someone else into being the knight? I think so. But okay, if Papyrus is being manipulated, who is doing the manipulation? Well, I personally think it's the narrator of the character creation sequence, who I'll be referring to as just the narrator from now on. I believe this for many reasons. One of them being how similar he is to Flowey, someone else who manipulated Papyrus. They both take over someone's Twitter to
I think Chris and the knight have a SpongeBob Squidward kind of working relationship at best. I don't know. I feel like it might be more close, because Chris can like, they're so like in tune with each other that Chris can like communicate with them non-verbally, like the that's like a sign that's a non-verbal sign that I don't feel like you would get unless there was like a closeness between the two. Because like a random cough, I mean, if it was like with a stranger or someone I didn't really like that much, I mean, someone coughs, okay, whatever. But if I have like a close bond, I feel like with the people that I'm close with, I'm able to just communicate with them like that. I feel like that would imply a level of closeness between the two, no? Chris does like both Susie and Rousey somewhat equally? No, I don't think it's equally, because Chris chooses to hug Rousey and avoids saying mean things to him. Well, just because he feels bad for Rousey, just because they feel bad for Rousey and don't want to say like mean things to him doesn't mean they necessarily like him, especially since in chapter 2, the tea dialogue, right? Chris drinks Susie's tea and has a huge reaction to it. They really like it, showing they really like Susie. But they drink Rousey's tea, and it's like really low. It heals like 70 HP or something, which is lower than Noelle. I think the HP for Noelle's tea was like 80. It healed 80 for them. And Noelle and Chris are like estranged friends. So Rousey's relationship with Chris is like lower than Noelle. So that would imply that maybe they're not like a huge fan of him. Now, of course, they could have grown to like him over the course of chapters 3 and 4, but I feel like in chapter 3, they would still maybe not like... It wouldn't be like an equal like with Susie, at least. They might be warming up to Rousey, but I still feel like they would like Susie tremendously more, but whatever.
Advertiser games, they both are the first person you encounter.
Chris likes Susie way more. I think Rousey is growing on them, though. Yeah, exactly. That's what I would say.
Games, they both pretend to be your friend before backstabbing you. They're both interrupted by someone else whilst backstabbing you. They both have a bleak outlook on life that the audience is supposed to disagree with. Both characters treat people as pawns to get their way, and after first encountering them, they both disappear into the shadows, but are always watching. Considering all the similarities, is it possible that they share another similarity? Is it possible that they both manipulated Papyrus into participating into their master plan? I think so. Another interesting similarity this theory creates is the fact that both games would have two villains who use others to get their way. In Undertale, the two villains are Flowey and Chara, who manipulate Papyrus and Fresk respectively, and in Deltarune, the two villains would be Papyrus and the Narrator. The Narrator manipulates Papyrus, and Papyrus inadvertently manipulates King and Queen. Another thing I want to mention, but couldn't find the right place to put it, is the Narrator's reaction if we name ourselves Papyrus. Interesting. This begs the question. If the Narrator is manipulating Papyrus into being the knight, why? He clearly wants to cause the roaring, since he'd be the only one to give Papyrus the roaring knight title, but why does he want to end the world?
The fact that Chris loses attack debuff and is willing to keep on fighting if Susie and Rousey goes down shows that Chris is not willingly working for the knight. Well, I wouldn't say that. That they're not working willingly for the... I mean, that could mean any number of things. I think Chris still wants the knight to win. Willingly, I mean, that implies they're being forced into it, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with. Maybe they're not super thrilled about this arrangement, but I still think they're willing to work with the knight. I think the whole debuff thing, like, they start attacking for real because, like, I don't know, they maybe didn't expect the knight to go so hard on Susie and Rousey, and they're starting to be like, oh shit, we're gonna get our ass beat. Oh, the knight is going a lot harder than I expected, so maybe that might be why, but I don't know. Why is I coming into the chat and just randomly saying he, him? What is that supposed to be? People on Twitter saying that Papyrus is the man behind the tree. We all saw the little blush when Susie grabbed Chris's knife. I think the man behind the tree is the Riverman? Man? I don't think it's Papyrus.
Well, to understand this question, we need to analyze the psyche of the narrator. We must determine who this person is. Now, considering how mysterious this person is, it's going to be kind of tricky to. It's Gaster. I know, a very sudden and brave take on my part. I imagine most of you already believe the narrator is Gaster, but I'll quickly go over the evidence. 1. Gaster's theme is called Hymn in the Files, and the song that plays during the character creation sequence is called Another Hymn in the Files. This implies that the narrator is another version of Gaster, or a shattered piece of Gaster. 2. Another hymn contains Gaster's leitmotif. 3.
He's rage baiting? I mean, I don't really care. What, should I time him out or something? What's the deal here? Here, I'm putting you in timeout. You go into a 30-minute timeout. Be gone. Alright.
Narrator speaks like Gaster and uses a lot of the same phrases as him. 4. The narrator seems to have an interest in science, and Gaster is a scientist. More on that later.
Mods, crush his skull.
5. The vessel looks like a Gaster follower / Goner. And 6. The sequence is called the Goner Maker in the Files, which further connects the narrator with the Goner.
I think the blush was embarrassment, not a crush. Come on now. I guess you could interpret it multiple ways. I feel like it's implying a crush. Because remember, the pop-up lore, this is so random, but one of the pop-ups that Chris can click on is like a humans for monster dating thing. Like, I think the narration said that you unconsciously click on a pop-up for humans for monsters dating pop-up or whatever, which would imply that Chris is like into monsters. And combined with the fact that Chris seems to really like Susie and blush, I mean, it could be anyone, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of being implied Chris might like Susie. I don't know. Hi, I love your videos. Hi, Corn Chemistry. Thank you for supporting my videos. Actually, though, where were they keeping that knife? Who knows? Guys, can people be friends without romantic intent? Of course they can. Of course they can. But, like, I was a cruisy skeptic before, but yeah, I'm like 90% sure Chris likes her now. Yeah, just because two people can be friends doesn't mean, like, Chris doesn't like her, of course.
Therefore, Gaster. As you can see, there's strong evidence that the narrator is Gaster.
It's fine if you prefer them as, like, a platonic friendship. I have no problem with that, but I don't know. I'm just looking at the facts here. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just seeing what Toby is putting down. And I'm just picking up what he's putting down, and, you know, it just seems like it's being implied that Chris has a crush on Susie, but whatever.
Point out is Gaster's connection to the prophecy. If you use the Wayback Machine on Deltarune's website, you'll see that there's a pitch black image called Him. If you turn up the explosion and dehaze the image, you get this sentence in Wingdings. It says, quote, 3 heroes appear to banish the angels heaven, end quote. All of this proves is that Gaster has been talking about the prophecy on Deltarune's official website all the way back in 2016, which is pretty crazy. It's clearly foreshadowing something. Specifically, I think Gaster knows about the prophecy and is using it to cause the roaring. Let me explain. The prophecy, as Rouse describes it, goes like this, quote, for millennia, light and dark has lived in balance. But if this harmony were to shatter, a terrible calamity would occur. The sky would run black with terror, and the land will crack with fear.
Y'all, I mean, you know what? Since there's 40 people in here, I'm putting up a goal. 1 super chat. Set timer. 30 minutes. How will I celebrate? You get another goal. No, let's do something different. What should be the reward if someone gives 1 super chat? I say something that you tell me to say. With limits, of course. You can't tell me to say the N-word or something. You can tell me to say skibbity toilet riz or something. How about that? Donator picks. There we go. And we'll literally make it just $2 or less, or whatever the fuck. I don't know how that works. There. 1 goal. Spare change. Spare change. Spare change. No way, Rouse is the knife. Chris carries that knife everywhere. Rouse stays. Oh, someone already did it. Let's see, does that count as the goal? Let me see the goal. Well, someone donated. Why doesn't that count? Okay, I think it needed to be $2 or more, but you know what? I'm gonna let that slide. I'm gonna say that that counts. Alright, little cabinet man, what should I say? Within reason. You can't tell me to say the N-word. I will just ban you, I guess. They don't know but didn't super? Doesn't matter. Let's talk about the Nugget Boy incident on the Chapter 2 stream. Nugget Boy? Oh no. I don't remember the context of that, but I swear, I'm innocent. Say slime? I'm a broke friend? Slime? Okay, slime. Alright, but I swear I'm innocent, guys. I'm innocent, y'all. And thank you for the donation, little cabinet man. Alright, let's keep going.
Then, her heart pounding, the earth will draw its final breath. Only then, shining with hope, 3 heroes appear at world's edge. Only they can seal the fountains and banish the angels heaven. Only then will balance be restored, and the world...
Since the goal is still up, my goal still remains. If you donate and reach the goal, I guess it needs to be $2 this time. I will say what you tell me to say, within reason. But, yeah. Should have said, I'm old! My bad, I typed S. As much as I'm happy that Deltarune is gaining traction and having a lot of newcomers enter the fandom, I can't help but get upset over all the shipping arguments. So long as it isn't pro-ship, it's okay. What does pro-ship mean? I have absolutely no idea what that means. You see, I don't engage in cringe shipping arguments. A pro-shipper is someone who thinks people should ship what they like even if they themselves don't like it. What's wrong with being pro-shipper? I mean, I assume it's like pro-shippers are like, you can ship an adult with a child and it's fine because it's drawn. Obviously, I think that's weird, but like, whatever. Love your work. Thank you, Rico. You did it. I got the goal. Okay, tell me what to say and I'll say it. And you know what you get for reaching a goal? Another goal. Let's go. Donator picks. It's the same reward. You get to pick what I say. All right, tell me what to say. Professional shipper here. I love shipping. I work at UPS. Like, I'm indifferent to shipping. I don't really care. I do think that, like, people who ship, like, adults and children are a little sussy. But whatever. Fighting over ships is not... Yeah, like, I think fighting over ships is cringe. If it's, like, playful debating, like, whatever, who cares? If you're like, you're a terrible person if you ship Chris and Susie. Shipping is cool fight, yeah. Alright, anyway, let's keep playing. I'll wait for your, I'll wait for your message, Riku. But thank you for the donation.
It's clearly the roaring. Another weird thing about this prophecy is that it's very conditional. If this harmony were to shatter, not when this harmony were to shatter, which means it's not guaranteeing that the roaring will happen. The only thing it guarantees for sure is that if someone causes the roaring, then 3 heroes appear at world's edge to banish the angels heaven, and only they can banish the angels heaven. So if I, say, for whatever reason wanted to cause the roaring and I knew about the prophecy, I would know that if I caused the roaring, I wasn't out of the woods yet because 3 heroes would appear and try to throw a wrench in my plan. So if I really wanted to cause the roaring and end the world, I would need to some way sabotage the hero's plan.
Forget about all this talk about Chris. Here, talk about Gaster x me. You know what I'm saying. Exactly. My favorite ship is Gaster x me. My favorite shipping dynamic. You know that meme, my favorite shipping dynamic? My favorite shipping... Ooh, I just thought of the new best community post. My favorite ship dynamic. Imagine if I do one of these, but it's Gaster and Soph. Tell me that isn't a fire community guidelines. My favorite shipping dynamic, me, your mother. Okay, I'm gonna change your mother with Gaster. How does that sound? I feel like that's like goated. My favorite shipping dynamic, both legal adults, not related. Boring. You see, this is what's wrong with society. This is why society is crumbling. If you need something to be incestuous or pedophilic for it to not be boring, you need to go outside. You need to stop watching so much porn and go outside. Where our society is crumbling because of this.
Like, I don't know, maybe enslaving one of the 3 heroes and forcing them to do my bidding? But okay, this still doesn't answer the question. Why does Gaster want to cause the roaring? Well, I don't think it's for a very complex reason. One, Gaster is dead and appears to exist as some sort of incorporeal being, so I doubt he
Hey Chop Chop, how's it going?
cares that the world was gonna end since it doesn't affect him. Also, Gaster is a scientist. Even the narrator shows that childlike curiosity scientists have. What an interesting behavior. So I think he wants to cause the roaring because he's curious and wants to know what will happen. I think during his research, he stumbled upon the Deltarune prophecy, so he knows that if he wants to cause the roaring, he needs to deal with the prophecy and the 3 heroes. I also think he wants to know—
Gaster is Diddy in our lore though, so that's unfortunate. Maybe he's like, no. What if he's redeemed? I like a bad boy who can be redeemed. Don't take that out of context, okay?
the prophecy is real or if it's just bullshit, right? So that might be another
We're
reason
doing good, that's good.
why he's trying to cause the roaring. He's trying to see, hey, are the heroes going to show up and prove this prophecy true? So yeah, that's why I think Gaster wants to cause the roaring. So let's recap everything we've discussed at this point. The narrator, who is Gaster, wants to cause the roaring out of pure scientific curiosity. Through his scientific studies, he discovered the Deltarune prophecy. He realized that if he wanted to cause the roaring,
Deemed, exactly. I think Diddy can be deemed.
he would need to defeat the 3 heroes who were prophesied to
Not
appear
literally. Obviously, the real Diddy cannot. He should go to jail. This is a joke, allegedly. A joke, don't sue me, don't cancel me.
through the roaring. Through some unknown means, he gained control over Chris's body so that when the roaring did happen, he could use them to sabotage the 3 heroes' plans. At the same time, he started gaining Papyrus' trust and using his loneliness and need for admiration to manipulate him into becoming the Roaring Knight. He, of course, didn't tell Papyrus the ultimate consequence.
You're right. I'm talking about Diddy Kong, not Diddy Puff, not Puff Daddy. I'm talking about Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong can be redeemed legally. I'm talking about Diddy Kong in Minecraft. In Minecraft, he can be redeemed. Allegedly, yes, allegedly.
He instructed Papyrus to open Dark World across town, hoping that it will eventually cause the roaring. And that's where the story is right now. As for when I think Papyrus will be revealed as the Knight, I think it will be around the same time we meet Azrael, like I said in the intro. After all, Sans does say, quote, I'm sure you'll meet him someday, maybe around the time when your brother comes home, end quote. Okay, so now that I've recapped everything, there's one last thing I want to bring up before ending this video, and it's why Gaster chose Papyrus over anyone else. But before we do that, if you're enjoying this video so far, and don't skip, no, if you're enjoying this video so far, consider checking out the rest of my channel. All I make is Deltarune and Undertale theory content. If you end up enjoying it, make sure to subscribe. And if you really like me, join my membership program. Alright, that's it. E-begging session over. Why did Gaster choose Papyrus? Well, in my personal opinion, I think it's because Gaster is a family member of Papyrus. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I made the same argument in my first ever YouTube video. There was a 3rd skeleton brother? Don't watch it, it's fucking terrible, but I'll just summarize it right here. Basically, I saw this post on Twitter that Toby made talking about like,
Oh, I heard a lot of people whining about me summarizing this part of the theory, like saying it was like unnecessary. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't necessary to go into the theory that like Gaster is a family member of Papyrus and Sans, but I felt like it was important because I was trying to like argue that Gaster was manipulating Papyrus, and it's like, why would he choose Papyrus of all people? Well, if they have like a familial connection, then that would make some level of sense. But yeah.
Which contained the original ideas for Undertale and its various characters, and one of the papers was the original concept for Papyrus. Now,
okay, so well, you know, I'll watch it.
Some sort of sentence, but if you zoom in really close, you can see these tiny little slivers of letters. So by analyzing Toby Fox's handwritings and zooming into these little tiny slivers, I was able to determine that Gaster is actually one of Papyrus' brothers. Look, I understand how crazy that sounds, but I promise you, my methodology was rock solid. Now, if you look at the sentence, it's clearly talking about family members Papyrus has, you know, a Sans named brother and a blank name.
Besides, Papyrus is gullible as shit. Yeah, exactly.
Blank. So what I did in my original video is I listed out every family title known to man and systematically eliminated each word until I got the words another brother. I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to show you how another brother matches up with these little slivers. Look at this A. Now look closer. You can see that along with this big box, there's also a smaller box obscuring the A's tail. Why is this important? Well, look at some of Toby's A's. When they're part of a bigger word, their tails are always connected to the next letter. So this smaller box was put there to obscure if it's a single A or part of a larger word, like an or another. Why does it matter if this word is a and or another? Well, if it's a, that means the next word starts with a consonant, which eliminates a lot of possible family titles. If it's an and, then it works in the same way but with vowels, which again limits our options for family titles. And if the word,
you know, maybe I shouldn't regret it, right? Regret this part. Clearly enough people enjoyed it. If it has 66,000 views and 3.8 thousand comments, so maybe I shouldn't apologize for it. If it works, who cares? Some people said that the text bled through the page and it actually read Grandpa named Semi. I don't see that. On the back, Oh, you mean on the back? I mean, possibly. I don't know. I haven't really looked into that. But I definitely think the censored boxes don't say Grandpa
The only
Semi.
family title that makes sense is brother. Has a brother named Sans and another brother named blah blah blah. So in my original video, I was able to
Some people are just born to hate. Exactly. The most sane Undertale Deltarune theories, that was a joke? Am I the most sane Deltarune theorist? Honestly, I feel like if people called me the most insane Deltarune theorist, I would take that as a compliment.
down the options to these possibilities: a great uncle named blank or another brother named blank. If you look at this little sliver right here, you can see that it curls in the shape of an upside down V. After analyzing Toby's lowercase b's and uppercase u's, they both at times make that upside down V shape, but it's more common for his b's than his u's. Now look at this sliver. As you can see, it juts out. Toby's cursive
I think
R's
Half-Bred is the sanest. Yeah, definitely. Their videos are pretty fact-based.
also jut out in the same way, but his e's don't jut up as high as this sliver does, but R's do, which means that the word ends with an R. Brother would be the only option in that case, which means that the first two censored words are another brother. Looking over here, you can see these two little slivers. This sliver juts out in the same way as his cursive R's, and this little sliver juts out like a lot of letters, one of them being T. And oh, would you look at that? WD Gaster fits perfectly, which means that the whole sentence should read, has a brother named Sans and another brother named WD Gaster. You're
Do you know about the Hispanic community meme called Chichos Estoy Camilo Montedella? It's just a hyper-realistic Sans speaking. Now I need if I Google this better not be some sort of like trick to get me to Google like inappropriate stuff. Chicos Estoy. Okay, let's see. Oh, I see it now. But what does it mean? Okay, let's go Spanish to English. What does that mean? Guys, I'm eating Monatella.
Chicos, estoy comiendo mortadela.
Okay, hold on. It's like frozen. What's happening? Uh-oh.
Chicos, estoy comiendo mortadela.
This is my new favorite meme. I'm giving this a like. I can't believe Sans Deltarune is really saying this. Trump is the knight, obviously. Bing chilling. Hold on, let's see. What is everyone saying? I think being a crazy Deltarune theorist is just who you can pass off as the knight until the chapters come out. Craziest I saw was Burger Pants and Miss Boom. YouTube makes ad block users lag. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yep, that's the art of theory crafting. Bullshit. Faye Beam, it's creepy. It's funny. I actually had a dream that involved something to do with this channel the other day. My sister was involved. I don't know. It was weird. Tell me your dream.
Words also fit with those two slivers? No. Why? Because I said so. Okay, so let's say that there are no flaws in my methodology, and let's just say that Gaster is Papyrus's brother. Why is this relevant to this theory? Well, remember what I said at the beginning of the video. Imagine you're a lonely soul with no real purpose when someone you trust comes into your life and tells you they have an important mission for you. A mission that will make you powerful and important. A mission that will gain the admiration and friendship of other people. Wouldn't you listen to anything that person says? Especially
Man, I don't know what people were talking about saying this was unnecessary. It was literally like 2 minutes long. Like people would be okay, maybe it was like 3 minutes long. Okay, what? It was like 4:30 here. It's finished like 8. So what is that? Like 3.5 minutes. People whining about this shit. Like what the fuck? I loved your last video. Good job. Well, thank you. Great job. Thank you.
that person is your own brother. Papyrus, who's already a very gullible, naive person, would stand no chance against someone who's family. He's very loyal to the people he loves and would definitely believe anything this hypothetical family member would say. And that, my friends, is why
By the way, I should tell you about the new theory I'm cooking up. Okay, so while I was streaming last time, my neurons were literally activating. Like, neuron activation GIF. Let me give you an idea of what was happening to me. Okay, I can't find the exact GIF that I'm thinking of, but you know what I'm thinking of. Big brain GIF. It was like this shit. It was like this shit. I was unlocking my third eye, and I was thinking to myself, because one thing that always bothered me, so Toriel obviously is disturbed when she finds her tires slashed, so she calls the police, right? She goes to sleep, she wakes up, the police never showed up. From her perspective, the police never showed up, they never knocked on her door. So why isn't she at all like, oh, maybe I should call the police again? Because, you know, my fucking tires were slashed. There could be literally like Jason Voorhees outside my door looking to like kill me, slash my tires so I can't run away. She doesn't press the tire issue again. She never mentions it again. And I was like, why? That's so weird. And then I was like, She wanted the police to come there so that way the knight could go and take her and sacrifice her, because, you know, the mayor was talking about, like, police sacrifice. So clearly this was a plan. They were planning on taking, like, the police, someone, right? I guess a police officer in this case, and sacrificing her. What if Toriel was working for the knight and the mayor, and she knew that someone would come over to her, a police officer would come over to her house, and that would be an easy target. So she either lied and just told the police that her tires were slashed when they weren't, or I guess, I don't know, Chris slashed her tires and she's like, maybe she's like in with Chris, like she knows Chris is gonna open the dark world, right? And she knows Chris is gonna slash her tires, so she calls the police knowing that they'll come over. And, you know, she's like working for them. Am I right or am I right? Toriel is actually crazy in chapter 4, literal child endangerment. She has no... You see, and that's another thing, right? She's a piece of shit parent. Okay, I won't say that. But she's like a garbage parent, you know? Because her kids, the kids she's responsible for taking care of, Chris and Susie, they're gone, missing for the entire day. They show up at her house at like midnight. She never called them. She never was concerned. When they come in, she doesn't even care. She's too busy playing with fucking sands, to care that they're gone. She's not like, oh God, I was so worried sick about you guys. She's just like, oh, hey guys. So like, yeah, I feel like she's like a slightly garbage parent. Okay, what's happening over here? Ascended. You didn't cook? Why are you always hating on me, Ultra Steel? You just come onto my chat to hate on me? Seems far-fetched. But it's a good plot twist. I'm gonna keep cooking this up. Toriel being involved could be a cool plot twist, but I don't think she's involved given she hates Asgore and Asgore is working with Carol. Well, who knows? She could hate Carol for any number of reasons. Nah, I just disagree. I ain't hating. You can disagree. But like, I swear, every time you come into my chat, you're like, you are on to literally nothing. Maybe I'm just being sensitive. She just gave up trying to understand Chris and just let them be by themselves. But that's like a garbage parenting technique. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. If the knight beats you, she sleeps peacefully, right? You check on her, she's sleeping peacefully. If you beat the knight, her face is curled and contorted and she seems to be upset. So that would imply she's working for the knight. Plus, I brought up some other evidence in my Rudy Knight theory that shows she's not being honest with Dessa's disappearance. So I feel like she knows more than she lets on. I'm sorry, okay, just in my theory, you come up with the most wacko theories ever. You're free to think that, but like, why are you in my chat? Why are you here if you think all my theories are garbage? I don't know. Sounds like you're just here to hate. I mean, it could explain that thing with the Toriel code making the black deer sprite into a normal monster in the odd game. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Because that's so random and weird. Like, why Toriel? I feel like that implies that she's like hiding something about Dessa's disappearance. At the bare minimum. So you're right, maybe it's a little far-fetched. I'll find more evidence, I'll think about it a bit more, I'll research it this time. I'll make sure that my script is foolproof, I tell you. But that's just the sort of thing that I be cooking up, you know? My brain is activating, you know what I mean? But yeah. I love your theories, but maybe I just don't want to imagine mommy as a baddie, lol. That could be it. It's always the people you least expect. What if Toriel's car hit Des? True. What if? Okay, we watched this one. There is no night. I guess we're doing this one. Okay. Let's watch. And this one is probably untrue, because I think this was under the premise that the knight could be anyone. Like, the knight is a title that anyone can take on, but like, clearly the knight is a very specific person. Like, obviously anyone can open a dark world, but like, the Roaring Knight is a specific person. So I don't feel like you can say that there's no night. There obviously is a night. I mean, other people can do what the night does, but yeah. Anyway.
Welcome. There is no night. Well, technically there is a night, it just isn't a single night like we thought.
I really liked this theory at the time. Why, thank you.
Bold claim, I know, but hear me out. As we all know, the Knight's identity is one of the greatest mysteries in Deltarune. Everyone is a suspect. Is it Chris? Is it Father Alvin? Is it Gaster? Well, what if I told you it's all of them? What if I told you the Roaring Knight, the person who created the Card Kingdom and Cyber City Dark Worlds, the person who's been terrorizing the streets of Hometown, isn't a single person. Instead, it's multiple people, each working towards their own goals. Look, I know how crazy this sounds, but what would you rather watch? Gaster's The Night Theory number 2673, or something that thinks outside the box? If your answer is the latter, then this video is right for you. I want to shout out Reddit user Salmonella for their post on the subject. I did steal a couple of their arguments, so the link is
So it's Dreamer, Holiday, Family versus Susie. It's weird that Chris had to open the fountain considering the Knight immediately communicated with Tenna anyways. Like, just do it yourself, dude. Yeah, there's so many weird things about the Knight. Maybe this was like an initiation ritual. An initiation ritual where like Chris opens a Knight. I mean, not opens the Knight, opens a Dark World to like prove their loyalty to the Knight or something like that. I don't know.
in the description below. Now let's get right into the theory. Now, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not saying this theory is actually true. We only have 2 out of 7 chapters to work with here, so there's simply not going to be enough evidence to prove this theory. I'm just going to show why it's technically possible there's more than one Knight. First, let's discuss everything we know about the Knight so far. Let's start with chapter 1. Sham says that one day a strange Knight appeared, and this Knight overthrew the 3 kings and put the Spade King in power. Now, the Spade King also has a lot to say about the Knight. By the Knight's will, I shall shatter your heart to pieces. The Knight has appeared. The Knight that pulls the fountain from the earth. Do you now see our new purpose? Soon the world will be blanketed in darkness. These lines reveal a lot about the Knight and their relationship to the king. Firstly, it reveals that they told the king about their master plan. Do you now see our new purpose? Soon the world will be blanketed in darkness. He's describing the roaring. He's saying that his purpose for existing is so that the Knight can cause the roaring and blanket the world in darkness. This means that he's met the Knight before and talked to them about the roaring. It makes sense then that the Knight introduced himself as
that did not age well. Oh wait, no, I think I actually make the argument that King didn't meet the Knight. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being preemptive. I don't know.
Devil also talks about the Knight. He says the hand of the Knight is drifting forward. Soon the Queen returns, and Hell's war bubbles from the depths. This line implies that Queen's Dark World will be created by the Knight's hand, the same Knight that created his world, which implies
I often wonder if King eats through the stomach mouth or the face mouth. Yeah, his anatomy is so like cursed. Okay, gotta go. I just remember that Rudy is the Knight and the Winged Gaster is Papyrus' second cousin once removed. Well, by Zazmodas.
that the Knight is a single person. I'll explain why this might not be the case, but for now we'll move on. In chapter 2, Queen is obsessed with the Knight. She spends the entire game trying to force Noelle to be the new Knight, now that the old Knight has taken its leave. She also claims that the Roaring Knight created her Dark World. She even has a video of them making it. Spamton also briefly mentions the Knight, saying, speaking of communion, Chris, did you know that the Knight— No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay, so what does this all mean? Why did I bring this up? Well, it's because it seems pretty obvious that the Knight is one person. Devil's line basically confirms it, and both King and Queen call the person who made their Dark World the Roaring Knight. What are the chances that 2 different people randomly decided to call themselves the Roaring Knight? Like, this theory doesn't make a whole lot of sense, except it does. All of these problems can be easily solved with a convoluted explanation. Shout out to Salnalilla's post, because I will be taking some of the reasoning. So for one, Queen doesn't actually know who the Knight is. She's never met them before, and she doesn't know what they want. She even admits this when she says that she's just assuming what the Knight's plan is based on their actions. The only confirmed interaction she's had with the Knight is the video she took of them making her world, and that's it. But if she's never met them before, why does she call them the Roaring Knight? Why does she say they want to cover the world in darkness? She says that because the king told—
What if Chris is in a time loop and that's why they plugged in the TV in advance before they knew Susie would go to their house? Or maybe the Knight told them to at the end of chapter 1, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like the time loop theory could be true. I think it was definitely Chris. Someone is listening. Shut up, Spamton. There when he talks about the Knight now. Yeah, I agree. It was probably Chris.
her. So King and Queen have some sort of history together. They clearly know each other, and since King is such a devoted follower of the Knight, maybe he told her about them. Maybe he said
I want to know, why is Spamton so like afraid of Chris? Like, he gets like genuinely afraid. What was Chris doing to like scare him?
Roaring Knight created his world, and that they want to cause the roaring, blah blah blah. And Queen simply assumes that the person who created his world also created hers. She even uses the exact same wording as the king, until the Knight appeared, and now the path is clear. Then with the world covered in darkness, no one will have to suffer. With the world covered in darkness, it's the exact same thing King says. Actually, she said covered, and he said blanketed. Okay, Bob, you got me, but you know what I mean. So when Queen says that the Roaring Knight created her world, she doesn't actually know that. As she said before, she's simply assuming based on this person's actions. Now let's address the Jevil line that seemingly confirms the Knight is a single person. What if he's just wrong? Remember that Jevil is being fed information by someone else, and we have no idea if this person is credible or not. They could simply be wrong, or intentionally giving Jevil false information to
Chris just has aura? Yeah, you're right. Maybe they just have that intimidating aura.
him insane. And yes, I'm aware that Jevil is at least—
They have like that weird kid that sits at the back of the school, at the back of class, who's totally not a school shitter vibe. That's
partially
kind of what we
since he
get.
successfully predicted Queen's appearance in the story, which would mean that he would need to know that the next Dark World will be open in the computer lab. But
Chris threatened to fill Spamton with milk and throw him into the wall. Yeah, maybe.
true doesn't mean completely true, right? So he could still be wrong about who actually created her Dark World. Look, I get it. This is a pretty convoluted explanation. I'm not saying this is actually what's going on, just that it's technically possible, which means it's technically possible that the person who made the Card Kingdom Dark World is not the same person who made the Cyber City Dark World, and that the Knight is actually multiple people, each working towards their own goals. But who are these people? Well, let's start with the person who made the Closet and Unused Classroom Dark Worlds, who I'll be referring to as Knight number 1. I'm grouping the school Dark—
Oh yeah, you're right, bro. Because the Knight tries to go for Toriel first, so clearly, okay, so clearly Toriel, they were planning on sacrificing Toriel first. You're right. So that might be why Chris slashed the tires and opened the door so that the Knight could take Undyne and say, "You're right. That probably makes more sense." I do like that chapter 1 end scene has more of a purpose instead of just they ate pie lol. Chapter 3 pre-planning is cool. Yeah.
Worlds together because they were opened in basically the same location, thus they were likely made by the same person. We know for a fact that Knight number 1 wants to cause the roaring because they were able to convince King that causing it would be a good idea. And you know, they literally call themselves the Roaring Knight, so this seems like a done deal. Now the identity of Knight number 1 is truly a wild card. It could be Gaster, it could be Chris, it could be Father Alvin. I did toy with the idea of it being Alfie's, but I just couldn't make it work. It's just too out of character for her, especially since she sent Chris and Susie to the supplies closet when she knew there was a dark world in there supposedly. I just can't imagine Alfie's
CIA aiding? Yeah, you can be helpful. So you're right. You're not a hater. I misjudged you.
the lives of children, so I think she's cleared from these accusations. But what about Gaster? He does have a strong connection to dark worlds. Entry 17 could have been about a dark world, which means Gaster has an interest in studying dark worlds. More on that later. Gaster was also shattered across time and space and exists as some sort of ghost or incorporeal being, so the end of the world wouldn't really affect him. He also talks about the Deltarune prophecy on Deltarune's official website, which I don't really know.
Yeah, you get 1 virtual cookie here. I will give you 1 virtual cookie. Or I guess 5 virtual cookies, whatever. I wonder though, what does the communion line mean with the new context from 3 and 4, including Chris probably intimidating Spamton? Okay, well, what is communion? Communion. I mean, I know it's like a religious thing, right? What does the literal definition of communion mean? Like, I know the religious significance of it. I don't think communion exists in Hometown's religion. The sharing or exchanging of intimate thoughts and feelings, especially with the exchange is on when the exchange is on a mental or spiritual level. And Chris's communion. It must have a religious significance, even though communions don't exist in that religion. So would that imply that the knight is like really religious or something? I don't know. Also, this might be common knowledge, but I don't see anyone talking about this. But I think the snowy area at the end of chapter 3 is the breeze coming from the outside from when Chris opened the door? What do you mean? From Undyne to come in? Oh, I see what you mean. Huh. I don't know. I think maybe that might be taking things too literally. But I don't know. Because before a lot of people thought it was Alvin. Yeah, I mean, it's not Alvin. We can see from chapter 4, he barely even shows up, which is kind of weird, honestly, but whatever. Yeah, Alvin is not an important character. I feel like it could just be someone who's religious. Like, maybe the knight is just like a really religious person. And you know who else is religious? Rudy! I just thought I would point that out.
Important to the story in some way. So what if Gaster opened the 2 school dark worlds to study them? But if that's the case, why would he open them in the school of all places? Maybe he opened it in a semi-public place like the school because he wants to see what will happen if someone falls into it. I've brought this up before, but why does the door close when Chris and Susie go into the supplies closet? Like,
but why else would there be a random snowy area from... Oh, I know okay, never mind. I know what you mean. I thought you were talking about the Ice Palace for some reason. The snowy area. Gosh. Chapter 3... And... I don't know. Let me look up the ending again so I can get a... Hold on. Let's look up chapter 3 ending. Let's look through this again because I'm trying to think about this. Gaster's list matters. Okay, I have no idea. What is Gaster's list? Okay, Deltarune chapter 3 ending. I wanna look this up. Maybe you're on to something here, but I would need to look for know-how on screen. True. I think it comes from the TV show, which in turn white static You're right, the snow over here. It could just be dust. It could just be dust from like the computer, not from the computer, from the TV or something. Yeah, I mean, there's like ice over here. I don't really think it's from the breeze. I don't know. Firstly, it's not even winter, so like, why would it be cold? It looks like it's fall. I don't know. I feel like it would be like room temperature to like slightly cold. I don't think it would cause that. Susie said it was cold. I don't think it's dust. Susie said it was very cold when she came in. Well, just because it was very cold. I mean, it could just be like an artistic interpretation. Like these dark worlds tend to like interpret like the objects in the room very like like I could see a dark world looking at dust and like changing it into ice or like snow. I don't know what to make of the snow. I don't think it's from a draft from outside though. I don't know.
Like, why? Clearly, someone was waiting outside for someone to walk in so they could slam the door on them and trap them in the dark world. I wonder who would do such a thing. Maybe this person wants to study the effects a dark world will have on the body. Also, the reason he chose the closet over a more public place like one of the classrooms is because he doesn't want to bring too much attention to
TV
himself.
Snow, search it? Wait, hold on. What is TV Snow? It's TV Snow. Oh. So white noise is called TV Snow? Well, then it could just be that. TV Snow, actual snow. It could just be that. I had no idea it was called TV Snow. I just called it static. But yeah, then it's probably that. Anyway.
He doesn't want to get caught, and he also doesn't want it to be obvious someone is missing, so he picks a place that's technically open to the public, like the closet or unused classroom, but isn't a place people often go to, so he can maintain some level of secrecy. So it is possible Gaster is night number 1, but what other options are there? What about Chris? It's unclear what Chris's motive would be for causing the roaring. Many things about Chris's motive are unknown, but I guess it is possible they could cause the roaring for whatever reason, so they could be night number 1. I just personally doubt it because of the way Chris reacts to the supplies closet dark world, but hey, there are still people who insist Chris is night despite this.
Who do you think opened the supplies closet? Who do you think opened the supplies closet, Dark World? Do you think it was the night, the roaring night, or do you think it was Chris? Because I will say, the intro to Chapter 1 and the intro to Chapter 3 are incredibly similar. So that might imply they were made by the same person. But at the same breath, there are so many things that are different about Chapter 3's Dark World that isn't like any other Dark World. Like, it uses a different currency. It's like filled with mini games and fun. I don't know. Did you notice that they came out of the house when they entered the door from where Undyne came from? I don't know, it might still not be the breeze. I don't know what I mean, I understand that they're very close to the exit. I don't think it's from the breeze, though. I think it's TV Snow. I don't think the night made Castletown, probably whoever informed Rousey of everything, maybe Chris. Someone who is religious knows the mayor and was involved with the police force. Rudy is at the church, is the mayor's husband and BFFs with Asgore, and has never been seen in the same room as the Knight. Yeah, exactly. I feel like Rudy is the Knight. You're bringing up that's one point I forgot to mention in my script because I was so busy like trying to get it out quickly to like get those day 1 views that I completely forgot to mention the fact that like he's connected to the police, he's connected to the mayor, and he's connected to the church. So I just feel like he's a good candidate. Anyway, let's keep going.
But what about Father Alvin? He has a very sussy scene in Chapter 2 that implies he might be the Knight. He might also want to cause the roaring for religious reasons, which I'll discuss in more detail later. So I just gave you 3 possibilities for who Knight number 1 could be. Pick the one you find most compelling. So now that I've explained who Knight number 1 could be, let's discuss who Knight number 2 is. There are so many suspects. It could be Gaster again, it could be Chris, which I strongly disagree with, but understand that some people believe. But what about Bertie or Noelle? I mean, out of everyone in town, these 2 had the greatest opportunity to...
My one big problem with Rudy theory is that he would need to drag Undyne all the way to the bunker in the light world. I think this could be explained with magic, because I think the Knight clearly is using magic. I know there's some evidence that would suggest that, like, magic doesn't exist in Deltarune's world. But the way I see it, I feel like magic is like a dormant thing. Like maybe people used to use it in the past and they still technically could use it. It's just not really commonly used anymore. So I still feel like maybe Rudy is using some form of magic to do it. Like, because the Knight can fly. So even though Rudy is physically weak, I understand that Rudy would not be able to physically drag Undyne there normally. But through magic, I don't know. Through magic. It's weird that Alvin and Alfie's are so opinionated on the bunker. I won't accept he beats up his daughter's crush. Why won't you accept he beats up his daughter's crush? He literally threatens to beat up Susie if he, like, hurts Noelle. I mean, I'm sure he likes Susie, but, like, I don't know. He doesn't like her enough to be like, oh no, I won't beat her up. Probably easier for a grown man than some teenage girl to carry Undyne there. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, even if it is Des, obviously a teenage girl would not be able to drag Undyne of all people there. Like, there would have to be some level of magic involved. Oh my gosh, people are so active now. I need to, like, read all of these chats. Logically, how is the reveal of Rudy being the knight supposed to be shown without the player thinking it's absurd? What do you mean? I think it would be shocking and cool, but not really absurd. But I think that's subjective. To be fair, he did have a pretty good-hearted... changes. The description of Chris in the Dark World menu changes if you do or do not attack him as 8-bit Chris. Who's him in this equation? I don't agree with Rudy Knight, but saying he shouldn't be able to drag Undyne as evidence makes still sense to me, because obviously the knight is absurdly powerful when they are the knight. Yeah, I think it would have to be, it's magic. Neither Carol, Des, or Rudy are really large, which is interesting, so the closet thing makes me sus. Maybe the Roaring Knight is still magic in the light world somehow. Yeah, I think the Roaring Knight has magic in the light world. I think it's just magic that they have all the time.
Create the Dark World. I don't think it's Birdly because it's Birdly. I mean, it would be kind of hilarious if it was Birdly, but I honestly doubt Toby would make him the knight. I did think for a hot minute it was Noelle, but if that's the case, that girl deserves an Oscar because she did a very good job pretending not to know what the fuck is going on, to the point where it seems a bit out of character. And by that I mean she would need to be some sort of sociopathic master manipulator to pull off that acting job. Now, Noelle does have a tendency to block out traumatic events, so I guess it's possible she opened the Dark World but just doesn't remember. But then again, on the Snow route, it's not like she doesn't remember anything. She obviously does, based on the scene where she contemplates all the times Chris coerced her into doing bad things. She's simply trying her hardest to forget. So I don't think she could completely forget opening a freaking Dark World. Also, she's already comfortable opening Dark World. Why does she spend the entire game refusing to obey Queen's orders and just open another Dark World?
Rudy is seen as very sick, so him being the knight, him being able to do all these tricks wouldn't really make sense. It's through magic. It's magic. Asgore is the only person in Hometown who should be able to overpower Sans without magic. So yeah, probably magic stuff. Yeah, I think it's magic either way. Even if you think it's Des. Like, I'm sorry, Des would not be able to overpower, like, Undyne without some level of magic. So even if you think it's magic, I mean, even if you think it's Des or Carol or someone else, I feel like they would have to be using magic. Undyne can literally bench press a car. Explain to me how anyone is going to be able to physically force her to go to the freaking, whatchamacallit, the bunker. There has to be magic involved, either way, regardless of if you think it's Des, Carol, Rudy, Papyrus, I don't know, Chris, the freaking space aliens in the sky. There has to be magic involved. I don't think they have magic. I think they have fountain power. But no, it can't be fountain powers, because I assume if you leave the dark fountain, then those powers go away. How would they be able to physically force Undyne to go to the bunker? There has to be magic involved that transfers into the light world. Assuming the knight is a lightner, I think we're very sure that that's why the knight had to catch her by surprise, otherwise she would definitely be folded? Well, even if they initially catch her by surprise, once she realizes what's going on, she would fight back. And she's very strong. She's, like, superhumanly strong. So, I mean, if it's someone like Asgore, sure. Asgore could physically force her without the use of magic. But I feel like everyone else, there would have to be magic involved. Have we seen any sort of magic in the light world so far? No. It seems like magic doesn't exist. It's not like a common thing people use, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Maybe they didn't force her, maybe they just convinced her to go. Carol has the police in her pocket after all? I don't see any evidence that Carol has the police in her pocket. I mean, as like zealous as Undyne is, she doesn't strike me as the type of person who would like accept a bribe. She's a pretty moral person. And I don't see how they would be able to convince her to go to the what do you call it? The bunker after like attacking her. Like, I feel like she would still be pretty emotional. Like, this would have to be like a 5-second conversation, because Susie immediately chases after her and then they go outside and then Undyne is gone. So that would mean in the span of 5 seconds the knight was able to convince Undyne to willingly go to the bunker. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe the knight swooned her before leaving the door? I mean, I never saw her. Hold on. Let's look at this, at the video again. Let's have a look here. It looks like they just leave with her and then that's it. It looks like they literally just zoom off and then, I don't know. So I don't, it's possible that they hit her off screen, like the second the second they flew off screen, I guess they put her down for a second and then like made her swoon and then they left after that. I guess that's possible. I don't see that being very likely. I think the night is one of Gaster's experiments and somehow made Des harness the power of the fountain and the darkness corrupted her being. Not a theory, but more like my idea of things? Yeah, maybe. I think the whole Undyne bunker scene is extremely confusing overall and hard to explain. I don't feel like it's hard to explain if the night just has magic. If the knight has magic and can just like fly through the light world, then I feel like it makes some level of sense. Otherwise, yeah, I agree. It's a little awkward.
It's not because she doesn't want to.
Could be Scooby-Doo shit. The knight flees the bunker, Undyne goes after, and someone closes the door and traps her. Yeah, it could be that too. But without any evidence, I'm gonna assume that the knight literally forced her in there. Especially since the narrator, I mean not the narrator, the mayor was talking about like a police sacrifice. So clearly they were intending to sacrifice someone. They attempted to kidnap Toriel first. When that didn't work, they just kidnapped Undyne. So if their intention was to kidnap someone, I don't see why they would let Undyne go and just hope she chases after them.
Want to cause the roaring because he seems genuinely shocked when Rousey tells the team about the roaring for the first time. So Noelle isn't really the best candidate for night number 2. But you know who is a very good candidate for night number 2? Mettaton. You know the Spant and Neo suit and how it's very similar.
It's a pretty big assumption that the knight has a magical form in the light world, but I agree. It's one of the few things that makes sense. Yeah, I agree. It's not. There's no evidence of it, right? But I feel like that's what makes sense to me. Yeah, I find it very odd she doesn't point out they got Undyne or something like that. Susie never mentioned seeing Undyne once they get to the light world. Yeah, well, I feel like doesn't she mention Undyne? Did she not mention Undyne ever? Maybe. I don't know. Knight's armor is pitch black, meaning it's made out of the same properties as the fountain have, which is the ability to go darker. Well, I mean, it could be black for any number of reasons. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the dark world.
Why is that? Well, according
it could just be an artistic decision to make them look like the Wendigo. And how do you pronounce Wendigo? It's the Wendigo. That's what it's pronounced. I feel like it's just like an artistic decision by Toby to make them look like the Wendigo. Maybe they just have black armor for some reason. I don't know.
According to the Swatchlings, that robot was the embodiment of a Lightner's dream, a dream I helped to create.
What's bugging me? What were they actually trying to do to Toriel? Because I feel like they were trying to take her. Wouldn't they just pick her up like Undyne? I think this is just like Toby, like being like, oh, if she picked up Toriel, then it would be impossible for Susie to intervene. So we're just gonna make the knights like try to. I think this is just Toby trying to make like the scene work, because if the knight just picked up Toriel and left, then Susie would have no way of stopping them from doing that. So he just had the knight like move her with their mind powers or something. Or maybe the knight was genuinely cocky and underestimated the team and just thought that like they would just be able to kidnap Toriel and they wouldn't really put up a fight. I don't know. Like, I feel like if Undyne didn't show up and the knight beat the team, right? They beat the team in battle. I feel like the knight would have just taken Toriel. But when Undyne showed up, they were just like, well, whatever. I'll just take Undyne instead. Something I like about the knight's design, I think the Toriel beam thing is super weird. Like, what were they trying to do there? I think they were trying to like pick her up with like their mind powers or some shit. Anyhow, we need to watch the video or else we're gonna be here all night.
Splashing color from the motion of their hand, the Lightner filled it with hope, giving it an incredible power. I think the Swatchlings are supposed to be like MS Paint brushes, which means that at some point someone drew up a Spant and Neo suit in MS Paint, and since the Mettaton Neo suit is clearly like Mettaton's ideal body, it makes sense that he would be the one to draw it. The Swatchling dialogue indicates Mettaton abandoned the drawing at some point, but what if he hadn't fully given up on it? What if he still was determined to make his dream a reality? What if he decided to study the occult to find some way to magically make his body, only for him to discover that if he opened the dark world, it would bring the objects of that room to life, including his dream body? But okay, if he opened the dark world to get his perfect body, why is he nowhere to be found in the actual dark world? Shouldn't he be in there searching high and low for his perfect body? Well, maybe he did look for a brief moment, but you gotta remember how hard it is to get to the Spant and Neo suit. First, you need to go through all these obstacles in Queen's Mansion to get to this room. Then you need to find the secret entrance to Queen's basement. Then you need to get a keygen to unlock the encryption lock to get into the basement. Then you need to write this incredibly difficult teacup to disable the force field to finally get to the machine. Like, it's just a lot. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So it's very possible that Mettaton did try to search for it but realized it was impossible and gave up. That's why he's not in the room when the dark world closes. He's left way before that. Alright.
Knight has Mettaton shoulders, heels, and pose, so you get some Pookie points for this. Alright, well thank you. I get 10 Pookie points for this. Oh, that should be my donation reward. If you donate and get the goal, you get 10 Pookie points. How does that feel?
So Mettaton is knight number 2. Who is knight?
I think seeing as the knight taking Undyne was kind of a last minute move, they wouldn't have done her mind power thing if they had the chance to. Like, instead of using their powers, they just pick her up because they didn't have time to. Yeah, maybe that's what it
Number
was.
3, it's Chris, obviously. I mean, we literally see them open a dark world before our very eyes, so there. But what about knight number 4? This is where things get interesting, because from here on out, we're dealing with probabilities. We don't know where each dark world will be opened, which makes it harder to profile the people opening them. So from here, I'm just gonna give my best guesses. I'm not gonna go over every character who could possibly be the knight, because there are just too many, and other YouTubers have already done that. I'm just gonna give you my top picks. Also, note that from here on out, the number next to the word knight doesn't indicate chronological order. Knight number 4 could be in chapter 4, but it could also be in chapter 5 or chapter 6, etc. With that being said, let's get into who I think knight number 4 is. I personally think it's Father Alvin. Here's why. Father Alvin has a scene at his father's grave where he says
this was a terrible theory. Why would I ever suggest it would be fucking Father Alvin when he literally doesn't even have a talking sound, and the narrator doesn't react to his name? I think I was just grasping at straws, because I needed like a person who would open up the church dark world. So I just chose Father Alvin. Like, oh, whatever, it's probably Father Alvin. It doesn't make any sense for it to be Father Alvin. He's not important at all.
Proud of me, father, and is it right for this hammer too? This implies that he wants to do something morally questionable with his father's hammer. This morally questionable act could include opening a dark world. But why would he want to open a dark world? Maybe for
Pookie points increased with 0.25% interest per diddle? That's diabolical. Maybe the knight could have taken Toriel, but they would have also had to take Susie, who was standing in front. Yeah, they wouldn't have done that. That would not have worked.
Religious reasons. Father Alvin is a priest at the church, and Hometown's religion appears to take inspiration from Christianity. The roaring sound a lot like the rapture, another post-apocalyptic event, and the angels heaven sound a lot like the second coming of Christ, which happens right after the rapture. The second coming of Christ is when Jesus returns to the earth to judge the living and the dead. Could the angels heaven be something similar? A way for the angel to judge the people on earth and wipe the world clean, following a post-apocalyptic event like
yeah, like the roaring is totally like the rapture. Like, it's totally just like the rapture, but like with Deltarune paint with it.
Father Alvin may want to cause the roaring to bring judgment onto the world of Deltarune. Thus, Father Alvin does have a motive to open a dark world and could be knight number 4. He's likely to open this dark world in the church, since that's where he works, and it's being set up as a possible dark world location. Rudy's dialogue in chapter 2 talks of him wanting to go to church tomorrow. One of the newsletters implies that chapter 3 will take place over a single night, which means that church services will take place right after chapter 3 and chapter 4. Therefore, a church dark world is likely to happen then when everyone has a reason to be there. So if Father Alvin is knight number 4, what about knight number 5? Well, I think it's Undyne. Why? Well, before I tell you, if you're enjoying this video so far, you should check out the rest of my channel. All I make is Deltarune and Undertale theory content. If you end up liking them, make sure to subscribe.
Yes, listen to her. Listen. She's incredibly smart. You should totally listen to her. You should totally check out her channel and watch all of her Deltarune videos 10 times in a row at 0.25 speed, because if you watch it at 0.25 speed, that means YouTube thinks you watched it 4 times in a row, which means I get 4 times as many watch hours. So listen to the girl. Listen to the girl.
Okay, no more e-begging. Let's get back into the theories. I think Undyne is a good candidate for knight number 5, and here's why. Before Chris opens chapter 3's dark world, Toriel...
And also, yes. Also join the membership for monthly self freestyles. Yes, you're gonna watch you get to listen to my freestyle album, my freestyle rap album.
Calls the police. We know from the Wet-Nosed Bandits that Undyne likes to patrol the streets at night looking for bad guys. Thus, it makes sense that Undyne would be the one to respond to Toriel's calls. Chris opens the door before they open the dark world, which means that when Undyne responds to the scene, she will likely walk in the house and fall into the dark world. Undyne is terribly bored at her job as a police officer since there's barely any crime in Hometown. Her time in the dark world will likely be the most exciting thing that's happened to her in a while. This provides a possible motive for wanting to open a dark world in the future. She could learn how to open dark world in chapter 3 before deciding to make her own, just like how Chris learned how to open a dark world in chapter 2 and decided to make their own. Therefore, Undyne could be knight number 5. Now, Undyne doesn't strike me as the type of person who would put the public in danger, so if she was going to open a dark world, it wouldn't be somewhere with a lot of people, like say the police station. Now, I know what you're saying. The police station is literally a public place. How could she open a dark world there and not endanger people? Except the police station gets so little foot traffic that NASA feels comfortable closing up shop because they weren't feeling it. Like, can you imagine if a police station in a big metropolitan area did this? Like, there would be so many criminals getting away scot-free. But since Hometown has so little crime, people don't really go there that often. So maybe Undyne opened a dark world in her place of work to spice her life up. Overall, I think Undyne is a decently strong candidate for knight number 5, so let's move on to knight number 6. I think it's Noelle. So a big theme in these games is escapism. These dark worlds and media in general allow people to escape from the difficulties of life, and someone who has an exceptionally difficult life is Noelle. Her sister is missing, presumed dead.
We don't talk about who produces the freestyles in the 2000s, though. Yeah, we don't talk about that. Make sure to ban anyone who talks about that, Noha.
Her dad is seriously ill and hospital bound, and her mom is implied to be controlling and domineering. The only bit of relief she
Don't worry, I didn't go to any of the freak-offs. It's fine.
gets from this life is spending time with her father. Now, Rudy's exact condition isn't known, but it's implied to be pretty bad, and maybe it's even terminal. So imagine how Noelle would react if the one good person in her life, her father, were to succumb to his illness. How devastated she would be. Maybe after this traumatic event, she decides to escape into the fantasy of a dark world. Remember these lines? I've never had an adventure like this before, with axes and battles and magic, where everything can be healed with one little spell. How about this line? I wish I knew healing magic in real life. Then I could make you better, and it wouldn't just be me and mom. Yeah, Noelle clearly has a big motive to open a dark world in the hospital, so she can use healing magic on her father, especially if her father were to die from his illness. Now, there's a common question asked in the fandom. What happens if an item covered in dust goes into a dark world? Since that item is infused with the monster's essence, will that person come back to life? I think the same question can be asked for monsters who have died but haven't turned to dust yet. What happens to the body of a monster who has fallen down and goes into a dark world? Does that person come back to life? This may be another reason why Noelle would want to open a dark world in the hospital. Even if it doesn't work, a person who's grieving will try anything to save their loved one. And that's why I think Noelle is night number 6. So last we have night number 7. I think it's Gaster. I know, a very original idea, but here's why I think so. First, I think the last dark world is going to be in the bunker. I go into more detail on why I think this in my predicting dark worlds video, which you should totally check out, but it basically amounts to foreshadowing and warm fuzzy feelings, which I know is not the most compelling argument, but just work with me here. As I mentioned before, the bunker has strong ties to Gaster, entry 17 in Dark Worlds. The bunker's ID is 17 in the game's files, and the strange sound coming from the bunker is a slowdown version of Muse_Smile, which is a song that plays during entry 17. Entry 17 talks of a darkness that's darker than dark, so its experiments could be on a dark world, which means that Muse_Smile could theoretically be a sound that a dark world could make, though obviously the other dark worlds don't make that sound, so just ignore that, These entry 17 connections also connect.
We don't talk about that? Did he do something bad? Don't question it. Quick, hide the evidence, Noah.
Gaster to the bunker. So maybe Gaster opened the dark world in the bunker so he can continue experimenting on them, which would make him night number 7 and night number 1 if you think he opened the school dark world too. Oh geez, this script is 4,000 words long, so let's recap things before we get into my problems with the theory. So Gaster opened the school dark world because he wanted to cause the roaring out of scientific curiosity. Mettaton opened the computer lab dark world to bring his drawing of the Spans and Neo suit to life. It's unknown why Chris wants to open the TV dark world, but they do. So Father Alvin wants to open a dark world in the church to cause the angels heaven for religious reasons. Noelle will open a dark world to bring Rudy back to life after he dies in the hospital. Undyne will open a dark world in the police station because she's bored with her mundane life as a cop and wants to spice things up. And finally, Gaster opened the dark world in the bunker to do scientific experiments on it. 7 theories for 7 chapters. Hopefully this all makes sense to you guys. Now I want to talk about the problems with the theory because there are many. Firstly, the explanation I gave at the beginning on how the night could be multiple people is overly complex. A good theory should follow Occam's razor, meaning it should require the least amount of leaps in logic to work. All of the lines I brought up clearly indicate that the knight is a single person with a single motivation, and it'd be a very confusing writing decision to do this. I mean, there's misdirecting the audience, and then there's this. The knight is being set up as the main antagonist of the story. You know, they want to open as many dark worlds as they can to cause the roaring. So it'd be very strange for the main antagonist to open 1 or 2 dark worlds and then disappear from the story completely and have the rest of the dark worlds made by different people. It makes more sense from a narrative perspective that there's only one knight and one antagonist.
I really want to know how Gaster connects to the plot and how directly he's involved, if at all. It feels surreal to think Gaster will ever be exclusively tied to the plot. I think he's the secondary antagonist. We're okay, so we have the knight, right? I guess that's the main antagonist, and then we have Gaster. No. Maybe the knight is the secondary antagonist, like the Darth Vader, and then Gaster is the main antagonist, like he's the Darth Plagueis, right? Am I? I feel like I'm cooking here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I just found this channel 2 hours ago, and it's good. Well, thank you, Disper. Make sure to watch all of my videos 4 times in a row at 0.25 speed. Like, comment, and subscribe. I hope we get a little sprite upgrade for Gaster. Boo. Yeah, me too. I hope he doesn't look like Wing Gaster. Hi, I'm Wing Gaster. I hope he doesn't look like that. That would be crazy. Let's pray he doesn't look like that. Hi, I'm Wing Gaster, the royal scientist. Let's just hope. Let's just hope he doesn't get this treatment, because that would be absolutely diabolical. Expect schizo ramblings in the chat? Yeah, exactly. Leave soap videos on loop as your device charges at all times? Yes, exactly. Well, I feel like what would even be a good look for Gaster? I hope we should we just embrace the horror movie monster look? WD Gaster. Should we just accept that he's just not gonna look good as anything else and just call it a day? Maybe we just give him some drip. We spruce up the drip. We leave his face the same and we just call it a day. How does that sound? Maybe just use the same sprite from Undertale. People assume it's him. Yeah. He should look freakish. His smiling sprite is goofy. I'm not gonna lie. This sprite used to give me nightmares as a child. I used to Google this face at 1 a.m. on my tablet when I was 12, and I used to be ooh, it spooked me to my core. This used to be the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. This game theory thumbnail, this used to give me nightmares, literally make me lay awake at night and be oh my god, is Gaster in my closet? What was that noise in the dark? Was that just the house moving, or was WD Gaster, was Wing Dings Gaster, W Diddy Gaster in my closet? I don't know. Nightmares, girl, don't you have a crush on him? He used to give me nightmares, but you know what? I feel like I can fix him, you know what I mean? Stockholm Syndrome, yeah, exactly. This video introduced me to Undertale, yeah, same. It was the same video for me. Or maybe it wasn't this video, it might have been one of his videos. Actually, yeah, it was that video. I watched this video, and it actually has nothing really to do with the main story of Undertale. I thought Undertale was a horror game for some reason, because of how spooked I felt during this video, and I was like, oh my god, I have to play this game, and I have to let it spook me to my core, and I was like, wait, this game is like a silly comedy type game. I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised, but that was not what I was expecting. Anyway, let's get going.
You know, maybe we get a couple of Dark World opened by other people, but the bulk of the Dark World should be made by the main villain, you know, the Roaring Knight. Otherwise, how are we supposed to fear the Knight if they barely do
Yes, I can fix him. I can put him back together again. My name is Soph. I made Gaster. It was difficult to put the pieces together.
in the story. So those are the reasons that I doubt the theory. And then there's also, you know, the devil line that was probably just true. I mean, he does correctly predict that the queen is going to exist eventually. So that line is probably just true. But yeah, I think there's probably just going to be one night. But it was a fun theory to, you know, explore and think outside the box. You know what I mean? So this is the end of the video. But what do you guys think? Do you think the knight is a single person or multiple people? Make sure to leave all your thoughts and theories in the comments below. And make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you to my wonderful members, Mellow Mackie, PF247, Remy, Silly Willy Billy Silly, no username, and Graylet.
I watched the Sans Nest video when I was 11, and even at that age, I found it ridiculous. Yo, should we react to the Sans Nest theory and see how well it aged? I have not, like, watched this, or, like, I haven't even thought about that theory in, like, 8 years? Or, I remember watching it when it first came out, and thinking, I guess I thought it was silly at the time. Yeah, I think I watched this like 8 years ago, and I haven't watched it since. I proved Sans Nest. Wait, hold on. I'm just clicking on it so it's in my history and I can go watch it later. I don't remember how I got into Undertale. I was 14. It was a traumatic era, but it did help me get through it. Well, that's good. I'm glad. Sans is Steven Universe is goated? Yeah, exactly. I feel stupid because I discovered Undertale from a Henry Stickmin reference. Wait, really? Henry Stickmin referenced Undertale? That's kind of crazy. Okay, what do we watch next? This one? Y'all, if I don't make it through my discography after this stream, then I'm just calling it quits. You're just never gonna see me react to all of them. Alright. MatPat's flopping flapjacks video is traumatic? Wait, what? What is that? Matt, again, hold on, flopping flapjacks? This better not be like porn or something. Explain. Anyway, let's just watch this video. Gosh, I get so distracted so easily.
Right now, another Gaster video. Aren't you original? But can you blame me? The details surrounding this barely existent, irrelevant side character is just too juicy. I can't stop thinking about it. I have a problem, I admit it. The thing about Gaster that has always interested me the most is the mysterious Entry 17. Hidden deep within Undertale's files, this entry allegedly explains what caused Gaster's untimely death. Supposedly, Gaster wrote this entry whilst planning out his final experiment. The experiment that led him to fall into his creation and be shattered across time and space. In this experiment, he studies something that's extremely dark, like darker than dark. Apparently, it's so dark that its photon readings are negative. For those of you who don't know, photons are basically particles of light. So this thing is so dark that it produces no light at all. Now, it's never explicitly said what Gaster is studying in Entry 17, but I personally believe it was a dark world. It makes perfect sense. Dark worlds are literally made of darkness.
MatPat probably has Toby's official Sans and Papyrus art with Nest clothing framed on a wall when he retired. True. Best boobs in gaming history video where he called them flopping flapjacks? Yo, that's crazy. MatPat is a dog. He got that dog in him. Wait, best boobs in gaming history? I just want to watch this for purely scientific reasons. Okay, maybe I can't even show this. I can't believe that thumbnail was allowed on YouTube. Like, I'm really skating the line here. I don't even think I can show that, like, thumbnail. But I will watch it in my spare time for purely scientific reasons. No other reason, okay? I'm just curious. Anyway, let's watch.
They're so dark they suck the light out of any room they're in.
But calling boobies flopping flapjacks, like, what even is that? I can't believe MatPat made that worth that thumbnail. I know, like, what was that thumb? I can't believe that was allowed on YouTube back in the day. Like,
it's also gross to fit the room that it's contained in, which is similar to how the darkness in Entry 17.
We need to go back. We need to go back to that era where anything goes in YouTube. Not for any reason. Totally not because I want to go into it. Just because I don't know. I feel like it was more free back then. I watched Jacksepticeye's Undertale videos when I was 9. It was my first time seeing Undertale. Ooh, Jacksepticeye was a classic. My first, like, exposure to the game, besides that game theory video, was like a PewDiePie, what was it? A PewDiePie playthrough. I like watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, I need to play this game. So I bought the game on itch.io or something like that, and I played it and I loved it. And then I just obsessively played it. And I had my whole like embarrassing Undertale phase for like 2 years, and then I got bored of it, and then Deltarune came out, and then I played Deltarune for a little bit, and then I just kind of like passively watched Deltarune theory videos. Like I wasn't really like the biggest fan in the world. Like I liked the games, you know. I think it was my favorite game series at the time, but I wasn't nearly as obsessive as I am now. And then I was like, you know what? I need to make videos on this game, because like what else am I supposed to make videos on? Not because I'm gonna goon to it. We are for real VR. I'm telling the truth. It's not because I want to goon to it. I'm just curious. I thought the true pacifist ending was a mod at first. Wait, really? That's crazy.
Entry 17 perfectly describes what a dark world is, so it's very likely Gaster was experimenting on one. But hold on, Undertale has absolutely nothing
Also, this theory probably aged the best, because all I was saying was that like Entry 17 was about a dark world and it happens in like in Deltarune's world, which I'm pretty sure is true. I mean, it's definitely been confirmed that Entry 17 is about a dark world. It hasn't been confirmed that Entry 17 happens in Deltarune's world, but like, come on. Come on, I'm gonna go over so much evidence why that's the case.
Dark worlds. For all we know, dark worlds don't even exist in Undertale's world. However, dark worlds are very important to Deltarune. In fact, it's what Deltarune is all about. If this experiment is about something so important to Deltarune's plot, why is it in Undertale's files? Could this be hinting to the fact that Entry 17 takes place in Deltarune's world? Not necessarily. Just because dark worlds are never mentioned in Undertale doesn't mean they don't exist in that world. Maybe Undertale's Gaster was just interested in dark worlds and wanted to experiment on one. But if that's the case, why does the bunker in Deltarune make the same noise as Entry 17 but slowed down? Why does that same noise play when we try to use our phone whilst in a dark world? Why did a portion of Entry 17 appear on Deltarune's official website? And why is the bunker's room ID 17? Look, I've compiled a lot of weird connections between Deltarune and Entry 17.
LMAO, I just watched the intro to MatPat's video. You need to watch that shit, not on stream. Wait, I need to watch it right now. I won't watch it on stream. I watch it on my phone, and then if I decide that it's like appropriate, I'm gonna watch it on stream. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna risk everything. Let's see. Best boobs in gaming history. Yep. Well, Google now has a voice recording of me saying that in their hard drives, which they're just gonna keep forever and like sell it to like Facebook.
And in this video, I will explain why these weird connections might mean that Entry 17 takes place in Deltarune's world, not Undertale's. I'll also explain why Entry 17 is in Undertale's files and not Deltarune's. And a bonus, I'll try to guess the identities of the 2 people Gaster was talking to at the end of Entry 17. Now let's get right into the video. First, let's lay out everything we know about Entry 17.
Okay, yeah, I definitely cannot watch this on stream. That is crazy work. Diabolical work. But honestly, it's like peak. Am I the only one who thinks this is like peak? Am I wrong for thinking this? Y'all, this is gonna be the last stream. I don't know. I think I'm canceled after this. Anyway, let's go back to watching this video.
Within Undertale's files. It can't be encountered in any story route in Undertale. The only way to access it is to edit the room number of your save file. If you do this and open the game, you'll encounter this scene. It's something written in Wingdings. Translating it to English, it says, entry number 17. Dark, darker yet darker. The darkness keeps growing. Shadows cutting deeper. Photon readings negative. This next experiment seems very, very interesting. What do you two think? There's a lot to unpack here.
Need to see this for research purposes? Yeah. Watch it for research purposes. I think you'll be very informed from it. I feel very informed from it. Noha, did you feel very informed from it? Because I did. I think everyone should check out this video. For research purposes only. Anyway, let's keep watching.
Darkness that perfectly align with what a dark world is, as I mentioned earlier. But that's not all. The text is written in Wingdings, and the WD in WD Gaster is believed to stand for Wingdings. This means that Gaster wrote Entry 17 since he speaks and writes in Wingdings. It's also titled Entry 17, which uses the same naming scheme as the entries written by Alphys during her experiments. Entry 1, Entry 2, Entry 3. So this is likely the standard way royal scientists name their entries, which means Gaster wrote Entry 17 for his job as royal scientist. Not to mention Entry 17 is called room_Gaster in the files. I just completely forgot to mention that. But who is Gaster? If you're watching this random Gaster video with like 100 views, you probably know who this guy is already. But for the sake of completeness, I'll quickly explain who he is. Gaster was a former royal scientist before Alphys. He created the core and was apparently quite brilliant. One day his experiments went wrong and he fell into his creation, shattering across time and space. He's strongly associated with the number 666. As a fun value, you need to encounter him is 66, and he has some unused battle stats in the game that are a bunch of 666s. This is important.
I feel like this is when my like editing was starting to peak, you know, where I was really getting my footing and my videos were like getting polished and nice, and I was starting to master things. Yeah, I like the editing of this video, and I love the music choice that I chose. I think I did all Persona 5 like OST, and I think also Persona 4 maybe, I don't remember. Yeah, if you want to know whose flapjacks are victorious, check out that banger from Matt Pat 18 years ago, 13 years ago, I see. Oh Christ, that thumbnail, Matthew Patrick. Honestly, he's so like based. He's so real for this. He's so real for making this video.
Something called a typer value. It's basically a variable in the game that denotes how quick text moves on the screen. Every character has their own.
I know the intro is like it's like 10 times worse than the thumbnail. Like the thumbnail is tame in comparison.
Typer value. The typer value for entry 17 is 666, which provides another piece of evidence pointing to Gaster being its author. There's a lot more about Gaster in Undertale, but none of it is very important to this discussion, so we'll move on. Now that I've established what entry 17 is, I'm going to explain why a lot of the assumptions made about it may not be true. The first assumption is that entry 17's experiment was the experiment that took Gaster's life. This makes for an easy answer as to what happened to Gaster, but there's no direct evidence that that's what actually happened. For all we know, he could have done many more experiments after entry 17. And assuming entry 17 is about a dark world, if Gaster fell into his creation, he wouldn't shatter across time and space. That's just not something that happens.
But yeah, I 100,000% cannot watch that video on stream, or else this video will be taken down, unfortunately.
So it doesn't sound like he could have met his end by falling into a dark world. But if he didn't fall into a dark world, what did he fall into? Perhaps it was the core. It's described as his creation, and the Gaster followers said he fell into his creation. So the logical conclusion is that he fell into the core. Most people treat the core as if it's just a red herring and he fell into whatever entry 17 describes. But sometimes the most obvious answer is the correct one. He might have just fallen into the core. But since entry 17 is clearly about a dark world, it means entry 17 couldn't have been his last experiment. The second assumption made about entry 17 is that Gaster wrote it during the course of his duties as royal scientist. This is because it's named in the standard way royal scientists name their entries. But the name entry 17 is pretty generic, so it's possible a non-royal scientist version of Gaster just happened to name his entries in the same way as a royal scientist would, and this is purely coincidental. So this is why I think it's possible entry 17 wasn't written by Undertale's Gaster. Now let's get into why entry 17 may have been written by Deltarune's Gaster. But first, where's the evidence that Gaster even is in Deltarune? Well, there's actually a lot of evidence that Gaster will play a very important role in Deltarune's story. Don't believe me? Let's look at the facts. 1. Along with entry 17, another message in Wingdings used to appear on Deltarune's official website. It says, 3 heroes.
Yeah, I was binging your theory videos a couple months ago, and they're really well put together. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. Have you guys, have any of you watched the video for research purposes only? If you have, tell me your reaction to it. Tell me your honest reaction to it. You know what my honest reaction to it is? My honest reaction, Justin Bieber. Like, this was my honest reaction to the video. I don't know. I'm just being real. But make sure to describe your honest reaction to that video in the chat below.
Appeared to banish the angel's heaven. This is clearly in reference to the Deltarune prophecy that Rowsley tells us about at the beginning of Deltarune. Since Gaster is the only character known to speak in Wingdings, this message was clearly written by him. Now why is Gaster talking about something so crucial to Deltarune's plot on Deltarune's website? If Gaster wasn't in Deltarune's story, why would Toby do this? Clearly he's going to be important in some way. Next we have the Gaster tweets. Right before the release of Deltarune, a mysterious character
straight up gassed in it. I'm actually crying right now. I have to get tissues. Oh yeah, you're just crying. That's why you're getting tissues. I get it.
Undertale's Twitter page to promote the release of Deltarune. This person speaks in short, fragmented sentences in all caps like Gaster. I have something I want to show you. Something I think you will find very interesting. But what does this mean? Clearly this mysterious person is WD Gaster. But why does Gaster want us to play Deltarune so badly? And why is he the one announcing the release of Deltarune to us, if he has no relevance to the plot? When we first open Deltarune, we encounter another mysterious character who speaks a lot like Gaster. The song that plays during the sequence is called Another Hymn in the Files. This is a reference to Gaster's theme in
I'd be a bit upset if all this Gaster edging by Toby leads to nothing. Yeah, me too. Like, that would be like the lamest shit ever if like Gaster doesn't even show up. Like, I feel like there's compelling evidence that he's in the game, so like, come on, when are we gonna see him? If we don't get like an on-screen appearance by WD Gasters where he says, "Hi, my name is Wing Gaster," I'm rioting and I'm asking for a refund on Steam, straight up. The real Gaster was the friends we made along the way.
Which is called Hymn in the Files. The melodic content of the song also contains Gaster's motif. During the sequence, we're tasked with making a vessel that we'll be presumably controlling in the game, but after pouring our heart and soul into this creation, he says that
banging content, my sponge. Thank you.
answers are gonna be discarded.
Y'all, the non-stop glazing, you can keep going. I will accept the non-stop glazing. I love it.
He spouts out some
that came out wrong! By glazing, I mean compliments. That's it. That's what I mean by glazing, okay?
To be about the world, kind of like Flowey, and then he forces us to possess Chris. Also not very nice. Why are we being forced to possess?
Now I can't stop saying sus things. Like, what's happening here? I'm just afraid it's gonna be more cryptic and hard to discern bits of evidence hidden away. Yeah. My honest reaction, bring back old YouTube. That's what I'm saying. We need to go back to old school YouTube. I hate everything about new YouTube. The videos, I hate the design of the website. I hate what they've done with the design of the website. So many useless, stupid changes. At least, if they could add one good feature to this website, they should add like a retro, like a 2016, 2015 retro design that you can turn on in the settings so I can go back to old YouTube, because this new UI that they've had, every single UI change they've made to this website has been terrible, especially the mobile app. The mobile app has just gotten worse and worse. It crashes like every single day. The freaking little window mini player is buggy as shit. Like, everything about it is shit. I wish I could go back to 2015 and just like visit 2015 YouTube, the YouTube website in 2015 again, and just like relive that, because like holy shit, over the years, over this past 10 years, every decision they've made for this website has been terrible. Round corners are too circular. I even hate what they've done to the freaking like what do you call it? The timeline. Firstly, I hate like how hard it is to use like to like move to a precise place in the video, especially on mobile. Why did they add this like random purple streak to the freaking timeline? Like every decision they make, every single UI change they make is either useless or just like makes the app harder to use. I hate it.
Possess an innocent child. So far, Gaster seems kind of villainous. The character creation sequence is not the last time we talked to Gaster. If we die, he asks us if we
Unhook extension can remove tons of trash on the YouTube UI. Maybe I gotta look into that. Unfortunately, there's no extension to actually make YouTube look good. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate.
want to continue playing. And
Pat corrupted you? No, I think he helped me see the truth. He enlightened me in many ways. That intro was very enlightening. And yeah, I wish we would go back to old YouTube.
also narrates the menu options in his typical Gastery way. But that's not all. There's also evidence that Gaster drove Jevil and Spanton insane. If we talk to Sham, we'll hear a story about how a strange someone drove Jevil insane. One day he met a strange someone, and since then he began to change. He started saying bizarre things.
I hate it when they change things that mess with your muscle memory, like they moved comments years back. Yeah, exactly. It's just stupid little changes that don't improve the app in any way. It just makes it like harder to use. I'm used to how the layout of the app is, and you just change it on me for no reason. Like, why?
That didn't completely make sense, but didn't completely not make sense either. Since that time, the strange words he said have stuck inside my cotton, and my view of this world has gotten darker yet darker. This line clearly references entry 17. Does this indicate that the strange someone who drove Jevil insane is Gaster? Next we have Spanton. He used to talk to someone on the phone who would give him flattery, advice, and predictions. One day this person stopped talking to Spanton, and this drove him insane. He still tries to talk to this person, but all he hears is static on the other end. Could this static be the same static we hear when we try to use our phone in a dark world, which happens to be the same noise that plays during entry 17? I think so, which might mean Gaster is also responsible for driving Spanton insane. As you can see, Gaster is definitely in Deltarune, and all of this evidence points to Gaster having a more villainous role in the story, destroying our vessel, forcing us to possess Chris, driving Jevil and Spanton insane. There are even parallels between him and Flowey. It all just seems very ominous. But that's besides the point. Now that I've shown evidence that Gaster is in Deltarune, let's get into why I think entry 17 takes place in Deltarune's world. First, we have the fact that Deltarune's website used to have a portion of entry 17 on it. Now, the way that you actually find this archive is a little bit difficult. If you look at the earlier archives of Deltarune.com on the Wayback Machine, you'll see that it's all black. If you click on the right-hand corner, you'll be able to download an image called him.png. If you dehaze the image, you get this.
Matt actually made a formula for measuring Mahatma Gandhis for this video. Yo, he's a genius, man. He's a genius. Guys, hear me out. The final battle against Gaster himself begins. A familiar tune plays. Penumbra Phantasm. I really hope we get a new rendition of Asgore's boss theme, dude. It would be so cool. Yeah, it would.
Wingdings. Translated, it says 3 heroes appeared to banish the angel's heaven. But hold on, this isn't entry 17. It supposedly used to be on the website back in 2015, but there aren't any archives from 2015. But if you look up the archive for him.png on Deltarune's website, there is an archive from 2015. And if you dehaze the image, it says this next experiment.
Oh, I was gonna ask, what's this track? I had it in my head. What is the name of this track? It's the track that plays in like the gun shop for Persona 5. What is it called? You know, we're gonna find out right now. Gun shop Persona 5 music. What is it called? Layer Cake. It's an absolute banger track. Yep, this is the track. I gotta use this track more in my videos. It's a great track, honestly.
Seems very, very interesting. Boom. For some reason, someone archived the image of him.png from 2015, but not the entire website from 2015. Makes you wonder.
Hey, 5 minutes left.
Used to be on there, but that's besides the point. This is proof that Gaster's next experiment will be important to Deltarune's plot in some way. At least it's important enough to be on Deltarune's website, but there's more evidence. As I mentioned before, if you try to use your phone in Deltarune, it won't work and you'll hear a bunch of garbled noise. This garbled noise is the same sound file that plays during entry 17, which is called muse_smile in the files. This is another weird connection between entry 17 and Dark Worlds in Deltarune. I mean, why out of all the sounds Toby could use, did he use muse_smile? He knows people are gonna overanalyze this game and make connections between that sound and entry 17. Clearly he's trying to tell us something about the nature of entry 17. I'll explain why this specific sound plays during entry 17 and why it's relevant to the cell phones later, but for now let's move on. Another piece of evidence that entry 17
You're right. Persona 5 is great background music. I mean, it's great music in general, but it's great background music to use in videos. Like you can there's so many like different moods that you can like portray with these songs. Yeah, I gotta use more like Persona music. I love the vibe of their music, and Persona 4 music, honestly, and also Danganronpa music. I only use Danganronpa music for like one video. I think I gotta bring it back because it's such a vibe.
Is the bunker. If you sit by the bunker and listen closely, you'll hear this noise. This is actually use_smile slowed down substantially. Could this mean entry 17 was made inside the bunker, which is why it's making that weird noise? Maybe. The last piece of evidence, and this is the strongest, is that the bunker's room ID is 17. Like, I could not believe this when I discovered it. I double and triple checked it, and it's true. Sure enough, it is. The room ID is 17. This was not.
Yeah, I feel like that's conclusive proof that entry 17 happened in the bunker. No, like why would he make the room ID 17? Like that's so random. It obviously means something. This is a conspiracy.
So many little details and hints that entry 17 takes place in the bunker in Deltarune, and this is just the smoking gun that proves it. So okay, let's say that entry 17 does take place in Deltarune's world. This opens up a lot of questions that I hope to answer. So let's start with the easiest one. What's that weird ear-piercing noise that plays during entry 17? I think it has something to do with our cell phone. Why does the cell phone make that same horrid noise when we try to use it in a dark world? It's not because the dark world blocks signals. We've all had cell phones before. If our phone doesn't have any signal,
Jet Set Radio and Sonic Rush have amazing video music. I'm gonna have to check that out then.
we try to call someone, it doesn't make a bunch of weird noises. It just doesn't work. The weird noise isn't caused by merely blocking signals. The dark world is causing the phone to malfunction in some way. And if it can make a phone malfunction, who's to say it can't make other electronics malfunction? It's kind of assumed that entry 17 was written down, but what if it wasn't? What if it's a voice recording? We do hear talking sounds during entry 17, presumably Gasters. This is the true lab entries, which are written down by Alfies and don't have Alfies talking sounds when you interact with them. So I think it's very likely that entry 17 was a recording. So maybe Gaster recorded entry 17 in a dark world, and this dark world either caused the recorder to malfunction or caused another electronic to malfunction, and the noise got picked up by the recorder. But wait, if dark worlds make electronics malfunction, how did the recorder pick up what was being said? Well, who said that electronics stop working completely in a dark world? The flavor text when you try to use your phone says it doesn't seem to be working, but just because something doesn't seem to be working doesn't mean it actually doesn't work.
Is that why I didn't know I made that argument, that the reason why there's that weird staticky sound and like the entry 17 recording, it's because like the dark world was making the recorder malfunction. I don't know, I feel like that's kind of an interesting theory. I don't know what to make of it. I feel like the scratching noise is like related to like Des and the bunker. Not Des and the bunker. Des being trapped in the code, because she also mentions hearing a scratching sound. I feel like that scratching sound in entry 17 is the same thing. Is the same scratching sound she hears in like when she's trapped in the code or whatever. Added a track to the playlist. I need to play the Persona games. I don't know where to start. Just start with 5. They're standalone. You don't need to play any of the other games to understand them. You can basically start with whatever game you want. Start with 5 or 4, I would say.
It does work, but it just experiences a lot of static interference. This is further supported by the fact that Spanton used the phone to communicate with the person who drove him insane. Clearly, cell phones must be able to work in a dark world even if you hear a lot of static. That's why when this person stops talking to Spanton, he hears nothing but static. So that's why entry 17 makes that perfect noise. But why does the bunker make that same noise? I think it's because there's a dark world in the bunker, and the dark world is causing the surrounding electronics to make that weird noise. It just sounds muffled because we're outside and the electronics are like deep within the bunker. Admittedly, it's unclear if electronics near a dark world also malfunction, or if they need to be inside the dark world to malfunction. It's also unclear if all the electronics will make the exact same ear-piercing noise like when a printer make that noise. I don't know. Either way, I think there is a dark world in the bunker, and that dark world was the dark world entry 17 was recorded in. In my opinion. Another big question we have to ask is, why did Gaster experiment on a dark world to begin with? I think the answer is as simple as because he wanted to. Here's why. Have you ever noticed that every character in Undertale has a similar personality and interests as their Deltarune counterpart? Asgore likes a garden in Undertale, and he has a flower shop in Deltarune. Toriel dreamed of being a teacher in Undertale, and she's a teacher in Deltarune. Alphys is a nerd who likes anime in Undertale, and she's also a nerd who likes anime in Deltarune. You get the point. Since Gaster is a scientist in Undertale, he's likely also a scientist in Deltarune, or at least has an interest in science. So maybe he discovered dark worlds through his scientific research and is experimenting on them.
I played a bit of Persona 5, but only got to the second castle. Wait, which one is the second castle? Is that the artist guy? Was the artist guy the second castle? I don't even remember. Regardless, you gotta keep playing. It gets good. It gets better and better with each palace. Was it the artist guy? I think the artist guy was the second palace. That's not a spoiler, by the way. It doesn't really matter.
Experiment on a dark world. The next question.
By the way, what's your opinion on the place where it rained and the implications it has for Sans? Well, I think it's conclusive proof that Sans is from Deltarune.
We have to answer is, who are the two people?
Yep, beat music with the Snowgrave footage is a vibe. Yeah, exactly. Help beat music with the murder.
17. But before we
The
do that,
murder
if you're watching this far,
stuff.
that means you really like the video. So consider checking out the rest of my channel. All I make is Undertale and Deltarune.
I'm not gonna lie, guys, you can call me a psychopath, but like I genuinely enjoyed playing the Snowgrave route. Like it's like unironically fun. Like y'all are not gonna tell me it's not fun to play the Snowgrave route. Like it low-key is. You just get into this zone, right? It's almost like you're speedrunning it. Like you memorize the menu pattern you're supposed to put in every single time. You're running, you're just efficiently mowing down enemies, and you just get into this like trance almost. It's like fun. Like because the game isn't even guilt tripping you the entire time, so it doesn't even feel like you're doing anything wrong. It just feels like you're playing a regular RPG. The Snowgrave is the funnest route, maybe. Yeah, Neo's Snowgrave fight is cool. Straight up proceeding it. Yeah, exactly. I'm straight up proceeding it all the time. Me, I know, that was so fun too, where you like, I'm sorry, I know like it's supposed to be like a disturbing scene, but the scene between us and Noelle in her room where you're like, where you're like, where Chris is like, oh no, you just, don't say it, you don't want them to hear, and she's like, who do I want to hear it? And you're just like, me. Like, that is so fun. I love being the villain. That was absolutely, that was sick. That was super cool. You get frozen chicken from it? Yeah. Like, it's fun. I know you're not supposed to like it. I know it's supposed to be like the evil route, but I like being evil in games, and that was so fun. I gotta replay the Soul Grave route again, because that shit was a vibe. I'm not looking forward to the Amori playthrough reaction. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry.
If you end up liking it, make sure to subscribe and consider joining my membership program because I like money. Anyway, eBay concession over. Let's get back into the video. Who are the two people Gaster was talking to at the end of entry 17? Let's analyze the text itself and see what hints we can get from it. From the cold and personal way Gaster speaks throughout the entry, you think that the two people he's talking to are his coworkers or something. You know, someone that he doesn't have a very close personal connection to. But the Japanese translation reveals much more about his relationship with these two. Specifically the ending line, what do you two think? Now, warning, I don't know a lick of Japanese. All the stuff I'm about to say is shit I found off of Google and YouTube videos. So just keep that in mind as I analyze the text, and if I make any errors, just leave them in the comments. In Japanese, the line, what do you two think, translates to, and forgive me if I butcher this, Kimitashi futari ha dao umar I don't know. Omao? Anyway, Kimitashi means you guys in Japanese. There are many different versions of the word you in Japanese, in which when you use denotes your closeness to that person, you'd use the word anata to refer to a stranger, and you'd use the word kimi or some variation of it like kimitashi to refer to a subordinate, a younger person, or a close friend. So the two people Gaster is talking to are either his subordinates, younger than him, or his close friends. Maybe all three. With this information in mind, we can start eliminating suspects for who Gaster is talking to, like the player. I mean, this isn't a very popular theory, but I have seen it on like Reddit and stuff. During the character creation sequence, he refers to us as anata, which is a monster he's talking to.
I love it. Of course, it's not a popular theory. It's just something stupid people on Reddit talk about.
During the character creation sequence, he refers to us as anata, which is a more formal version of the word you. There are nuances to this. Apparently, the formality of the word has decreased as the language has.
So literally just uses Patreon to collect personal data to sell the loan sharks after us. It's fire. Yeah, exactly. Join my Patreon to get chased by loan sharks.
Bald, it can sometimes be seen as rude, condescending, or impersonal, but it's generally considered to be the textbook formal version of the word you. He also ends all of his requests with the word kudasai, which means please, so he's being overall very polite and kind of impersonal with us. This is very different from the way he speaks to the two people in entry 17, so we can discard the player. I toyed with the idea that he was speaking to Des and Chris. Des because I believe he's responsible for her disappearance, if you want to know why I think that, watch this video here. And Chris because Gaster stole Chris's soul, and Chris has trauma associated with the bunker, which means they likely came into contact with Gaster at some point. This would fit with him calling them Kimitashi since they're younger than him. The only thing that gives me pause is that it'd be kind of weird for a grown man to be close friends with two small children. Like, why is bro friends with kids? Someone needs to call the police. Now, this doesn't mean Des and Chris like Gaster, I just highly doubt.
True that. W Diddy Gaster. You see, even before chapter 3, there were Diddy vibes off of this guy. Also, the weird detective stuff you did to figure out Toby wrote what Toby wrote, and he actually has another brother named W.D. Gaster, was so cool. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I unlocked 100% of my brain with that video. Like, I was going out of control with that video. And I remember writing that whole video. It was super easy to write. It took me like 3 hours to figure it out. Like, maybe if he ever posts any more notes, he better not post any more notes, because I'm gonna tear that shit apart, and I'm gonna find out all of his secrets. I'm really good at that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's the same technique she used for forging our signatures. True. I may or may not have knowledge of, you know, that sort of thing from my life of crime, but you don't need to worry about that.
On him if they were very close. Overall, this theory is still possible, but I think there's a better explanation. What about Alfie's? Well, she's just a random teacher in Deltarune.
Also, did you know you can't enter WDG in the game show? Oh, is there like a custom reaction from like Tenna, or do you just can't put it in? Because that's interesting.
So I don't see why she would be helping him or why they would even know each other. What about Sands of Papyrus? If you agree with my theory that Gaster is a family member of Sands of Papyrus, which you should totally watch the video if you haven't seen it, but that's besides the point, then it would make sense why he would be speaking to them in such a casual way.
Yo,
so
it would be so creepy if you put in like WDG in the game show thing and it like reset the entire game. That would be creepy as fuck.
Them. Except it can't be then since they just moved to hometown, and assuming this entry was recorded before the start of Deltarune, which it likely was, then Sands of Papyrus wouldn't have been in town to help him with these experiments. Maybe they were just visiting him when entry 17 was recorded.
Oh, it's just but it's the technical difficulties screen shows up. That's actually pretty creepy.
Town mentioned seeing Papyrus or Sands before, so personally I think one of the people Gaster is talking to is image_friend. But who is image_friend? If you walk through this
Oh, you can't even put in a G? Man, that's lame. Let me put in the gamer word. Let me put in the gamer word. Who says, why are you preventing me from putting in the gamer word, huh? I mean, I would never call someone the gamer word, but come on now. Come on. Yeah, G is banned, but if you hack it, he does the tech difficulty stuff. Oh, really? That's interesting.
Of Queen's basement. There's a small chance you'll see this creepy sprite. In the files, this sprite is called image_friend in all caps. This is very
Maybe it's just a failsafe. Maybe it's just what happens when the game isn't sure what to do next.
because it follows the same naming schemes as all of the Gaster files in Deltarune. Device underscore appearance, device underscore choice, device underscore contact, image underscore goner head, image underscore goner legs. All of these files are associated with the goner maker sequence, which is associated with Gaster. 2 words in all caps separated by underscore. It's the same as image underscore friend. Just compare it to all the other sprites in the game. They're not even close to similar. I believe image underscore friend is working for Gaster to spy on Chris. If this image underscore friend is a friend of Gaster, as the name would suggest, then Gaster would speak to it in a very casual manner. So I definitely think it's possible image underscore friend is one of the people Gaster was talking to in entry 17. But who is the other? Well, I think it's the knight, whoever they are. I believe that they're working for Gaster to fulfill his master plan. Remember how Gaster
They let you put in cuck though, which proves Noelle will watch from the chair. True.
was talking about the Deltarune prophecy on Deltarune's website? Well, the prophecy warns of the danger of opening too many dark worlds and how it could cause the warring. What if Gaster wants to cause the warring and he knows that he can do that by opening a lot of dark worlds? But why would he want to do that, you may be asking? Out of scientific curiosity. The same reason why he's experimenting on dark worlds. He is a scientist after all. But if he wants to cause the warring, wouldn't that make him the knight? Not necessarily. To me, Gaster seems like the kind of guy who moves in the shadows. He's the puppet master who directs people to do his bidding. So I think the knight would be a separate person who's just being manipulated by Gaster into opening dark worlds. Who is this person? Who knows? Just insert the person you think is most likely to be the knight. I've quite a few knight theories on my channel, so if you're interested in watching that, go ahead. And there you go. Those are the reasons why I think entry 17 takes place in Deltarune's world. I hope you find my reasons convincing, but don't click off. I'm not finished yet. Something you may be wondering is, if entry 17 has nothing to do with Undertale, why is it in Undertale's files? And to understand that, we must look at the history of these games, so prepare for another tangent. For one, Toby came up with Deltarune long before he came up with Undertale. The idea for Deltarune came to him in 2011 when he had a really vivid fever dream. In this dream, he saw the ending to a video game that was apparently so good, he became obsessed with making a game with that ending. And that game would later become Deltarune. Taking further inspiration from this card set on Tumblr, he began working on Deltarune's characters, story, and magic system. In 2012, he started writing dialogue and music for the game, and soon after, he started developing the game itself, but gave up before creating a single room. In late 2012, he got the idea for Undertale after reading a Wikipedia page about programming. He created the Kickstarter for Undertale in 2013, and the rest is history. Undertale became massively popular, and a few years later, he released Deltarune. So why did I tell you all this history? It's to show that Deltarune was always a game that Toby wanted to make. It was his dream game. It's the game with years and years of planning put into it. Undertale's story was basically written as Toby developed the game, and he says that some of it was improvised at the last minute. Now, I'm not saying that Toby Fox didn't care about Undertale and he just made it to be popular so he can make the game he really wanted to make. None of that is true. It's just that Deltarune is a game that he clearly planned from the beginning. It was supposed to be like his dream game or magnum opus. So is it possible that Toby sprinkled in a little something into Undertale that hints towards something in Deltarune for curious players who take the time to discover all the secrets in Undertale? So when Deltarune is released, it hits harder. I mean, think about it. We're introduced to Gaster in Undertale. He's super mysterious. He gets people talking about him and theorizing about the game long after its release. Then we hide entry 17 in the files, which hints towards Gaster being more important to the story in some way. Then Deltarune is released and we start to realize Gaster might be a more major character in this game. And then Gaster is revealed to the audience and it's like, no way, he's here. Gaster's actually important to the plot this time. We're finally gonna get some character development for him. And it was all hinted to in entry 17. Oh my god, he planned this from the beginning. This is so crazy. But that's just
I feel like this is a pretty reasonable theory, honestly. I still stand by everything I said in this theory. I think the last video I'm gonna watch is Chris is dead because I mean Kara Narrator is an Undertale theory. It's not really gonna be affected by chapter 3 and 4. I think this is the last theory that would be affected by chapters 2 and 4. So we're gonna watch it, and it's a short one too. So let's go.
Is Chris dead? I think so.
There are loads of Reddit people who genuinely make it out that Toby hates Undertale and is actively trying to distance Deltarune from it, even though he obviously isn't. That's just Reddit for you. That's just Reddit for you. Why would he hate Undertale when Undertale made him a freaking millionaire? He's clearly very proud of it. I think he even blocks people on Twitter if you insult the game. He'll block you. So I think he's very clearly proud of it. I just think I think it's just that he doesn't want to just be known as the Undertale guy. He doesn't want all of his games to be tied back to Undertale. I think that's all there is to it. But yeah, I wouldn't say he hates Undertale.
And in this video, I'm gonna explain why. I'm just gonna skip through the long
hold on.
Welcome. Is Chris dead? I think so. And in this video, I'm gonna explain why. I'm just gonna skip through the long intro where I try to grab your attention and hook you and just get straight to the point. There are many hints that Chris is dead. The first and most obvious hint is the many times Chris rips out their own soul and shuffles around like a zombie. The movements seem very stiff and awkward.
Ooh, the genocide route playlist. Yes, let's go. The vibe. He just celebrated the 10th year anniversary. What? Yeah, exactly. What do you mean he hates Undertale? That's completely stupid. Undertale literally made him a multi-millionaire. Will we ever get Nut Dealer? I don't think so, unfortunately.
Painful. This may seem like an aesthetics thing, oh, they walk around like a zombie, they must be dead. But seriously, how can someone just rip out their own soul and walk around like it's nothing? Another hint is the fact that Susie calls them the school zombie and says we were sleeping like a corpse all class, which might be subtle foreshadowing that Chris is dead. But perhaps the biggest piece of evidence that Chris is dead is the fact that they don't have possession of their own soul anymore, because the soul that's in their body isn't theirs, and the only way they could have lost it is if they, died. Let's go over every instance that implies that the red soul isn't Chris's soul. In the world,
not the random EDP clip. That's crazy.
If they, died. Let's go over every instance that implies that the red soul isn't Chris's soul.
Oh, that's great.
As a body with a human soul, which is just so bizarre. For one, it doesn't say that the soul is their human soul, it just says that it's a human soul. It's also weird that it doesn't call Chris a human or a person, just a body, as if Chris is merely a vessel for this human soul and nothing else. In the light world, multiple characters comment on how strangely Chris has been acting lately. Toriel tells Alfie that she's grown concerned over Chris's weird behavior. She'll also tell Chris they should go to bed early since they don't look quite themselves. If you talk to Noelle at the end of chapter 1, she'll ask us if there's anything wrong with us since we're usually not this talkative. Chris is implied to be pretty antisocial and introverted, so
EDP jump scare, exactly.
Striking up conversations with them is very out of character. In the hospital, we're able to play the piano, quite badly I might add, and the clerk will say, you usually play a bit more beautifully. Is everything okay? You do seem a little sick. Chris definitely knows how to play the piano. Noelle's blog talks about Chris's beautiful piano playing, and their searches
do I still think that Chris is dead? We need more iconic diddlers in the Sylph's arsenal. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to bring them back. I wonder, do I still think Chris is dead? I need to ask myself this because honestly, I'm not sure. Deadass, I still think they are. I'm so glad I'm funding this editing. Well, why, thank you. Yes, you're still funding the editing. And I'm very grateful for it, because this is the quality shit you get out in return. I'm gonna keep doing my quality shit.
Includes queries for piano tutorials. So Toriel that they suddenly
A little game theory headcanon I have is that at the end of Deltarune, or in a potential bad ending, the roaring happens and there's an ending slideshow, and in one of the slides, an orb is flying from the Titans, and after the slideshow, there is a transition to the Undertale story slideshow? That's so random. I don't know about that.
They can play the same piano around Susie in Chapter 2, and her playing is so bad that she thinks we're joking. Then she'll comment on how annoyed Chris looks, almost like they know they can play the piano, but the incompetent soul that controls them can't.
Yo, what if Deltarune is a prequel instead of a sequel? Toby makes it very clear it's not a sequel, but what if it's a prequel? I don't think we will ever be getting a third game connected to Undertale and Deltarune. The other anagrams are... Hey, maybe we get Not Dealer, maybe we get, whatever the other anagrams are.
Then there's the whole Snowgrave route, where Chris forces Noelle to kill everyone. Noelle seems quite shaken by this coercive behavior, and points out that Chris is never this pushy. Later on, she'll ruminate on the voice telling her what to do, and say it didn't sound like Chris's voice at all. The idea of a second entity telling Noelle what to do is further supported by the Birdly fight. If Chris goes
it's
down,
a prequel, but only for Sans lol. Yeah, exactly.
Hear Chris's voice, despite the fact that they're literally unconscious. So as you can see, Chris has been acting very out of character recently. But that's not all. Chris also seems to possess knowledge that only the player would know. In this room in the forest, you're supposed to walk around the room until you see a secret switch. But if you've already played this room before, you can just go up to the switch and flip it. Rousey will seem amazed by this, and ask us how we knew the switch was there. When you meet Sans for the first time, you can say it's great to see you, and he'll comment on how strange that is since we've never met before, but we'll give one of his knowing winks. In Chapter 2, we can ask Sans to see Papyrus, regardless of if he spoke to him in Chapter 1. And if he didn't speak to him in Chapter 1, he'll comment on how weird it is that we asked about that since he never mentioned having a brother. If you speak to Undyne in Chapter 1, you can ask her about Alphys. There's absolutely no reason why Chris would ask a random police officer about their teacher, but someone who's played Undertale before might, because Undyne and Alphys are together in that game. Overall, Chris has knowledge that only the player would know, specifically someone who's played Undertale before. Chris also seems to lack knowledge that they should know. If you visit Rudy in the hospital, not only will he assume that we came because Toriel told us to come because it's super out of character for Chris to be that social.
I have many questions about Chris and the soul. Like, what happens to Chris without the soul? Is the soul actually Chris's soul and we're now in it? Or did we... I think we replaced Chris's soul. Again, I feel like Chris is dead. I don't know. I think they're dead. Nude Alert is my favorite personally. Yes, Nude Alert. I can see it happening. Do you think Megalovania will feature in Deltarune? Possibly.
But if we read the board on the wall, he'll say, Chris, you forgot my name or something? And if you interact with the floral display, he'll say, hey Chris, you know you signed that, right? Why are you staring at it like you've never seen it before? The last piece of evidence that Chris is being possessed is the fact that there are situations.
If Flowey has seen everything and done everything, has he seen the MatPat boobs video? These are the real questions the greatest philosophers of our time cannot answer.
Where Chris appears to be being forced to say things they don't want to say. The most famous example of this.
Deltarune should just end with a lore FAQ/Q&A. Yeah, it just jarringly ends with like a Q&A. Like you'd see on a website or something.
This is at the end of the Stamped and Neophyte, where Susie will ask if Chris is okay, and if you make them say, yeah, we're okay, you can tell that they're straining to say it. Like, they really aren't okay, but they're kind of being forced to say it. So, as you can see, Chris has been acting very out of character recently, and this strange behavior only—
Seeing fan-gained footage instead of Chapter 3 and 4 footage is so weird. Yeah, it is, but that's what I had to work with here. That would probably just make him more of a sadist. Shaking my head. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine the absolute depravity if Flowey was a gooner, or like a Diddy type character? Oh my god. Let's just be grateful that he's just the murdering psychopath and not a Diddy character, because that would be just 10 times worse. I'm glad Toby basically made Rousey turn the screen and say, hey, I'm not Rousey. Yeah. When we astral project to watch Susie, the soul never leaves Chris's body. True. Hold on, what was I gonna look up? I was gonna look up something, whatever.
When the red soul is in control. Still not convinced the soul isn't theirs? Well, when Chris rips it out at the end of Chapter 1 and throws it in the
first stream since subbing? How do you like it?
The soul is under the control of another entity. So this red soul clearly isn't theirs, which brings up the question of where is their actual soul? Maybe they died and their soul got shattered into a million pieces. But if Chris is dead, how can they walk around without a soul? One word, determination. Determination is the power that allows human souls to persist after death.
If Flowey had those sorts of desires, he would be like Slenderman's certain rhyming cousin.
It's the will to keep living, the resolve to change fate. It's the power that allows Frisk to save and load, and it's the power that allows people to come back from the dead. In some of the notes Toby wrote for the Undertale Japanese localization team, he explains the very literal meaning of the word determination. Creatures with too much are unable to die. Determination. So determination is made up of two words, de and terminate. Terminate means to kill or die, and de, in this context, means to undo. So determination literally means to undo death. There are three main cases in Undertale where determination is used to resurrect the dead. Frisk resurrects themselves by using determination to save and load. When they die, they simply reload their save. They also use determination to more directly defy death when their soul literally refuses to shatter. You see, it's another pun. The soul refuse, get it? Now, in all of these cases of resurrection, Frisk still has their soul, but there are actually two people who are resurrected without a soul, Flowey and Kara. Let's start with Flowey. Flowey used to be Azrael. He died and his dust was scattered across the yellow flowers in the runes, which became infused with his essence. Many years later, Alphys injected one of those flowers with liquid—
Bye, Wigway. Have a good night.
Determination and created Flowey. Azrael's essence gave Flowey Azrael's personality and memories, and the determination gave him the will to live, despite not having a soul. Next we have Kara. They died and their body was buried. And through means that are still kind of unclear, Kara was resurrected using Frisk's determination. Your power awakened me from death. My human soul, my determination, they were not mine, but yours. I still don't fully understand how this works, but I think it has something to do with the fact that Frisk fell on the flowers that Kara's body was buried under, but I don't really know. It seems like a human's body contains a human's essence, so this resurrected body still had the same personality and memories as Kara. So I just showed 3 instances where individuals used determination to resurrect from the dead. And 2 of those instances involved people who no longer had souls. So going back to
my mother is calling. Give me a second. Alright, y'all, I'm back. Sorry for taking so long. I had to clean my cat's litter. I forgot to do that, so I just went and did that real quickly. Alright, let us continue. How do you feel if we only got chapter 3 and we were left on that cliffhanger? Honestly, that would be like so fire. You're taking too long. Good. About to get to bed since I work early. Okay, I think we'll be finished. We're gonna be finished in a tiny bit, right? We only have like 7 minutes left, and at 2, let's put it on 2 times speed. Yeah, on 2 times speed, that's like 30 minutes. I mean, that's like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So it'll be fine. All right, let's go.
To Chris, if they
When is the Tenna's Gaster theory coming? It'll come
they
eventually.
could still live without it if they had enough determination, theoretically. And we know that they are determined since they are able to open dark worlds, and Queen reveals that you need to be determined.
I think a Chapter 2, Chapter 3 package deal in 2022-3 might have made more sense, not gonna lie. Yeah, but like, Toby Fox would not have been able to do that in like that short amount of time. Like, done Chapter 2 and 3 by 2023, like that would have been crazy. It's 8 a.m. here? Dang, where do you live? That's crazy.
In a dark world. I think under normal circumstances where the red soul is in control of Chris's body, they move around like normal because the soul naturally has determination and it keeps Chris alive. When Chris removes the soul, you can tell that they're
The Deltarune community would not have been able to survive just off of Chapter 1 for that long. Like, from 2018 to 2023, that's a 5-year gap with no content, and we're just with Chapter 1. There's no way the community would have been able to survive. Chapter 2 was necessary. India, wow.
to move because they're relying on the limited supply of determination in their body. That's why they always return the soul to their body despite not wanting to, because they're reliant on the soul's natural determination. Now let's talk about how Chris's possession works. This is not the first time in these games that someone acted as a vessel for a soul that wasn't theirs. Flowey hosted all 6 human souls in his body and became Photoshop Flowey, and a similar thing happened when he became Azrael. So it's definitely possible that when Chris died, the red soul took advantage of their weakened state and possessed their body. Another interesting
Oh, it's 4 a.m. here. Oh, I'm sorry, Noah, it's 4 a.m. Hopefully you'll be able to fall asleep.
we can gain from the Photoshop Flowey fight is the fact that the souls are constantly fighting against Flowey. I mean, they're giving Frisk healing items, and eventually they just completely overpower him. So the way that I think these like vessel hosting arrangements work is that there's a constant battle of wills between
Noah,
the vessel and the soul.
beyond such feeble things. All right then.
Everyone is more determined at that moment will control the body. Flowey is normally very determined, so he's able to keep the souls mostly in check for most of the boss fight, but as he grows more cruel, the souls become more determined to stop him, and they eventually overpower him. Going back to Chris's possession, I think it works in a similar way. For the most part, the red soul is in control, but in a few select moments, Chris gathers the determination needed to fight back. As for who's possessing Chris, I have a whole video going over the many different theories for who the red soul can be, and I will link the video in the description. Please watch it. But finish this video first. As for me personally, I tend to think that the player is controlling Chris, just because they seem to have knowledge that only the player would know, specifically someone who's played Undertale before. Speaking of Undertale, this brings me to my next question. Is the red soul that possesses Chris the same one that possesses Frisk? I know, I'm veering so off topic right now. I will get back into the original topic of the video, but this is just like an interesting thing I want to talk about, and it's too short to fit into one video. Anyway, there are some indications that these two are being controlled by the same soul. Firstly, their soul is literally the same color as Chris's, which might be a coincidence if it wasn't for the fact that at the end of the true pacifist route, Flowey literally talks to the player. It seems as if everyone is perfectly happy. There's nothing left to worry about. Well, there is one thing, one last threat, one with the power.
Do you think Flowey will appear in Deltarune? No. Apart from that golden flower and like what do you call it? In Asgore's like house, that's basically the only Flowey appearance we're getting, unfortunately.
Erase everything everyone has worked so hard for. I'm talking about you, so please, just let them go. Let Frisk be happy. At this moment, Flowey is not talking to Frisk. He's talking to us, the player, the one with the power to save and load, the one who could reset the timeline with a click of a mouse. Frisk isn't in control of their actions. We are, the player. Now, could the same player be controlling Chris? We know from the real world's perspective that yes, we are the same person controlling Frisk and Chris, provided we play both games. But is this true for Undertale and Deltarune's story? Toby did say that Deltarune is intended for people who've played Undertale before, and the person who controls Chris knows things that only someone who's played Undertale would know, like the Sans dialogue and the Undyne dialogue. So I think it's very possible that the person who controls Frisk is the same person who controls Chris. It's us, the player. At this point, there's one thing I have yet to address, and you're probably screaming at your screen right now. How did Chris die? And I don't have a concrete answer as to what happened, as I'm only working with incomplete information. You know, only 2 out of 7 chapters have been released. Basically, what I'm saying is, if I end up being right, then I'm being 100% serious right now, and if I end up being wrong, then I was totally just joking, okay?
I love how I don't even... okay, if there's one thing I would have improved about this, I would have at least tried to give an explanation as to how Chris died. That's crazy. I didn't even give a possibility. No, Azrael's dust was used for something a little different in this world.
Chris was killed by
Chris's
Gaster,
Nesquik.
He was a vessel for the red soul. I know this is like my 100th video about Gaster, but he's, I don't know, there's just a lot of evidence.
Oh, okay, I do give an explanation. Okay, then.
To the plot, okay, I don't choose the facts, okay? I didn't write the story. I'm just seeing all these connections, okay? So don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger. So let me explain myself here. Gaster is definitely the one responsible for Chris's possession, so let's get that on the record. He is the narrator of the character creation sequence. The music that plays during the background of that sequence is called Another Hymn, which is a
But if chapter 5 and 6 is set in his flower shop, then there might be something similar? No, because that would require Azrael's dust to be on the flower to like get Azrael to get like the Flowey personality, right?
to how Gaster's theme is called Hymn in Undertale's files. The song has Gaster's leitmotif in it. The narrator talks exactly like him. He's also the one that entices us, the player, to play Deltarune from Twitter and eventually forces us to possess Chris. You know, you've heard this all a million times before, but it needs to be stated. So, Gaster is responsible for Chris's possession. So, is it not at all possible that Gaster made Chris kick the bucket so he could use their body as a vessel for the red soul? Another weird piece of evidence is the weird connection between Chris and the bunker and Gaster. Chris has trauma associated with the bunker, as evidenced by this conversation with Susie. You okay, Chris? What's the deal with this place? Well, you don't gotta talk about it. There's evidence that Gaster lives in the bunker because the sound that plays near the bunker is like the same sound that plays during entry 17 but slowed down. So like there are connections between Gaster and the bunker. Clearly it's being implied that Gaster either lives in the bunker or does experience experiments in the bunker, something like that. So is it not possible that the Goner Maker machine is also in the bunker? Because we know from the files in Deltarune that the Goner Maker is like a physical device or machine. So what if it's in the bunker? Going back to Chris, maybe Chris has trauma associated with the bunker because they died there and was possessed in said bunker. A question you may have is, if Gaster needs a vessel so badly, why doesn't he just use the vessel he makes us make at the beginning of the game? Why does he need Chris in particular to be the vessel? Well, what if he wants Chris in particular because Chris is one of the 3 heroes in the prophecy, and Gaster has some plan associated with the prophecy? I mean, he was talking about the prophecy and Wingdings on Deltarune's official website. You're probably asking, what is his plan? And I have no idea, so we're just gonna move on. I assume as more chapters are released, we will get our answers. Or maybe I'll just be proven wrong entirely. Like I said, if I end up being proven wrong, then this video is just a gigantic joke. Why aren't you laughing? Alright, so those are basically my thoughts on the topic. Now, based on this recording time,
I never realized how strong the Gaster sexuality was until these rewatches. He's your white whale. True. You see, I was always this way. I was in the closet, okay? But now I've come out. I can't hide who I truly am. Alright, I think that's everything there is to watch. Yeah, we watched every video that we needed to. I mean, we skipped, this video and this video, but this is just this is strictly an Undertale theory, and so is this one. So I don't anticipate, really any of the chapters adding anything to these videos. I think these are standalone videos. Yeah, so I think I'm done here. I'll answer a few questions. Overall, this was Sigma. Well, I'm glad you liked it. Do you think you have any opinion on what object Rousey is? If anything, I think it's the little horns Chris used to like to wear. I think it's that. I'm fairly certain it's the little horns. I'm on Headband team, now I'm on Chris Monster Sona drawing team. Yeah, I wanted to make a joke, but I pressed send early. What? Whatever. Why would the knife turn into the twink? Yeah, I don't think it's the knife. I'm pretty sure that's like Chris's sword or something. Yeah, I think it's like the little horn things. Anyway, is there anything I should be watching? I think that's everything. Should I watch my shorts? Nah. No need. How's the community post doing? 300 likes. Firstly, I'm shocked that this one got 2K likes. I gotta up my game up. I didn't realize I had that potential, and this one has almost 1,000 likes. So yeah, I gotta be up in my potential here. Watch Never Gonna Give You Up. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end stream now, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. But now, I must go. Doodles! Steal more Reddit memes? Of course I will. Of course. Now, goodbye, guys.